Yes, hello. Welcome to the February 17th, 2026 City Council Work Session meeting. Our meetings are public, and you're welcome to join us in person or by watching from the Council Agenda page. You can also watch us through Zoom on YouTube. We hope you will continue to join us in whichever manner you feel the most comfortable. This is a work session meeting during which there is no public comment. Please join us tonight during our 7 p.m. formal meeting to share our comments. We, of course, welcome your feedback anytime. You can send us that feedback through mail at P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114. You can also email us at council.comments@slc.gov. You can send us a 24-hour phone comment at 801-535-7654. Comments we receive on agenda topics are shared with council members and posted on our website at slc.gov/council. The first item on our agenda is an ordinance for the Sugar House Hotel Master Plan and Zoning Map amendments at approximately 2111 South, 1300 East. We're gonna Brian Fulmer, Council Policy Analyst, and Kelsey Lindquist, Planning Manager, are going to join us at the table, and Brian is going to give us a brief.
Thank you. We're also joined by Michaela Bell. This is a proposal to amend the future land use and zoning maps for the property you mentioned in Council District 7 from its current MU3 or Mixed Use 3 zoning to 8, which is Mixed Use 8. And the intent is to construct a hotel on the property. The property is adjacent to Sugar House Park and is the site of the former Sizzler restaurant that you may be familiar with. The applicant is with us and would like to address the council when it's their time, and I will turn it over to Kelsey.
Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon, council. Next slide. So this is a zoning map and general plan amendment request from John Potter with Magnus Commercial Properties. The subject property is located at 2111 South, 1300 East, and is currently zoned MU3, and the general plan future land use map indicates mixed use low intensity. The purpose of both amendments is to enable a hotel on the property. Next slide. The plan amendment would change the mixed use low intensity to business district mixed use town center scale, and the zoning map would be amended from MU3 to MU8. Planning Commission forwarded a positive recommendation for both petitions in October of 25. Next slide. Just as a reminder, the factors of review include two different code sections, 1906-070 and 21A-50-050. The considerations help review whether the requests are consistent with adopted plans and policies, if they are compatible with adjacent properties, and whether there are impacts of the requests. Additionally, both code sections require proposed community benefits. Next slide. For background information, the property that is now Sugar House Park, just to the south and east of the subject property, was the Utah State Prison from 1855 to 1951. After the prison was moved in 1951, the 110 acres was converted to Sugar House Park. As far as the subject property and the development history, the site was a Sizzler from 1964 to 2020. After it closed in 2020, there were two different development proposals, including a multifamily building and a come and go. Next slide. These are just a few current images of the park and the subject property. Next slide. The Sugar House Master Plan, adopted in 2001, guides how land is used between 2300 East and 7th East, from 17th South to 30th. The plan speaks to residential and commercial development and contains specific design guidelines for Sugar House Business District. The plan focuses on keeping Sugar House's historic charm while supporting growth that's compatible, walkable, and sustainable. The district includes two sub-areas, the town center and neighborhood scale. Both intend to support higher density mixed-use patterns that keep the area active and vibrant. The plan guides how development should look here: buildings close to the sidewalk, pedestrian-friendly design, quality materials, landscaping, and active ground floor uses. The city's updated mixed-use zones already include the design standards, ensuring new projects fit within the character of the area. Most of the remaining community outside of the business district is made up of well-kept single-family homes. There aren't many vacant lots left. This property is one of a few. Most new growth is expected to come from redevelopment in or nearby the business district. Next slide. The property sits right on the edge of the business district. To the west, zoning allows taller, high-density buildings, while to the north, it transitions to lower-intensity uses next to residential neighborhoods. This is also the only privately owned property on the east side of 13th East. The proposed rezone and plan amendment would not set the precedent in Sugar House. On the map, you can see two other areas that were designated as low-intensity mixed use, but were recently rezoned to MU6 or MU8. According to the plan and existing development, the business district still has room to reach its full potential. It was designed to create a more walkable community near transit lines, and it's the preferred area for medium to high-density housing and mixed-use development. Next slide. The main differences within the rezone are the added height and the option for hotel use. Both are consistent with citywide plans for vibrant mixed-use districts that support the daily needs of residents and a wider economic activity. Expanding the town center designation and amending the zoning aligns with city goals for density near major corridors and supports a connected, walkable Sugar House. Next slide. Just for a quick comparison of the two districts, the MU3 permits buildings up to 35 feet, and the MU8 district permits up to 75 feet by right and 90 with design review. The MU8 district permits hotels, and both districts have significant design standards. Next slide. Next slide. The key considerations include implementation of city goals and policies, compatibility, community input, and the proposed community benefits. And the proposed community benefits are the primary considerations. Next slide. Staff found that the requests are generally in line with Plan Salt Lake and the Sugar House plan. The specific chapters from Plan Salt Lake include growth, natural environment, beautiful city, and economy. And the Sugar House plan is generally supportive of the amendment. As discussed earlier, the town center scale is indicated to be near transit, parks, and the retail core. The plan does discuss expanding the business district if aligned with design standards. Next slide. Under the existing MU zoning, nearly all properties along 2100 South could redevelop with taller buildings and higher intensity uses. Additionally, the aging suburban-style shopping centers east of Highland between 11th and 13th have been rezoned to MU11, which permits heights up to 150 feet. The subject property is currently MU3, which allows for development up to 40 feet, 35 by right. A rezone to MU8 aligns with the recent development patterns and development found in adjacent parts of the business district, particularly across 1300 East in the MU11 zone. Across 2100 South to the north, the MU6 acts as the transition area between higher intensity mixed-use zones and adjacent low-density residential neighborhoods. Next slide. As far as community input, staff heard three main issues, including building height and views, environmental impacts, and congestion and parking. Regarding building height and views, the current zoning, which permits 35 feet in height, 40 feet with design review, would block the view of the mountains from 1300. Additionally, any redevelopment of the shopping center to the west would also block views. The property is located within the groundwater source protection overlay, which has additional regulations. Public utilities will be closely involved in any sort of technical drainage study. Salt Lake County Flood Control and the state engineer will also be required for the construction near the draw. Additionally, the applicants did submit a traffic study, which was reviewed by the Transportation Division. The study found that the hotel use would have minimal impact on surrounding roads and— However, to minimize any potential impact, to 1300 East, transportation recommends directing outbound traffic to 2100 South. Next slide. As required by code, the applicant is providing 5 community benefits. They include the following: 25% market rental rates, below market rental rates for a local business, interest-free tenant improvement financing up to $430,000, free meeting room space for community use, 12 times a year, once per month, public use of underground parking, and a new green bike station in Sugar House Park, and that would be subject to the approval of the Sugar House Park Authority. Next slide. A development agreement will be required for the amendments to detail and solidify the proposed community benefits. Planning staff and Planning Commission also recommend that the development agreement requires 75% enhanced active ground floor use on the property. And the applicant is also requesting to include a proposed building gateway sign. These additional items were reviewed and recommended as part of the package from Planning Commission. Next slide. In conclusion, the Planning Commission forwarded a positive recommendation. Next slide. The applicant is in the audience this afternoon, and I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Councilmember Young.
Thank you. I appreciate the overview. And I'm just going to highlight a couple key points because I think that it's relevant to a lot of the feedback that I've been receiving. Can't speak for the other council members, but just want to highlight a couple pieces. First and foremost, this is private property. And so this isn't a question for the city to make a decision about selling off part of Sugar House Park. That is not what's happening here. It's very specific to an existing private property, making a decision and asking for a rezone related to that component. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think the second thing that I just want to make sure like we're all on the same page about is that when it comes to the development of this property, to your knowledge, Amanda, it's not changing. The property wouldn't be changing hands. It's an opportunity for the existing landowner to be able to lease it for this extended case. Is that right?
That's correct. It would be a ground lease.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then as far as kind of the conversation with planning goes, I just have a few questions based on feedback that I've gotten from the community. So we talk about the fact that we've shifted to MU, and that is pretty recent in terms of, you know, the history of planning decisions here in the city. How would you respond, I guess, to feedback from the community that we haven't really seen that mixed use play out yet to be able to then start making decisions about making additional changes to zoning within, 8 months of that passing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a good question. It is very early. We typically don't start seeing trends, at least that we can respond to, like 5 years at the earliest, right? But it is the only district that would enable the type of development that the applicant is seeking.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then when it comes to the community benefit conversation, what we're looking at is what has been proposed at this point. But it still remains for City Council to be able to kind of consider what types of benefits would be necessary to be able to consider this type of change. Is that accurate in the process?
That's absolutely accurate.
Okay. So I have a specific question about one of the community benefits, and it may be better addressed by the applicants. Is it okay, Chair, if I pivot that direction?
Yes. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Let's invite the applicant, and maybe you can direct those questions, and then we can give them a little time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to introduce yourself for the record?
Do you want to go first.
I'm Jackson Ferguson with FFKR Architects, architect of record on the project.
And I'm John Potter, the applicant, developer, and future operator. Do you want to start with your question, or would you? Okay, great.
Okay, we'll give you 5 minutes, so, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate the chance to talk to you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll start with a little more about us. I can mention I'm John Potter. I'm local here, lived here for 20 years, be the developer, the longtime operator, if this comes to be. Local architects and other design people participate in it. Have a 20-year history, 7 previous hotels, and over 200 employees at those hotels all in the Wasatch, the northern Wasatch area.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide, please. Oh, sorry. And next slide, too, again. Thank you. I got ahead. To start a little bit about our project, we're looking at a 145-room upscale boutique hotel under the Hilton network. This is a hotel that is it's aesthetically and operationally defined by the neighborhood, catering to modern travelers who are looking to experience the area that they're staying in when they go. They're looking for a neighborhood vibe, whether they're traveling for business or work, and Sugar House area provides a great place to do that, right? So even though it's in the Hilton network, it is will have its own branding, identity, and feel. Our mixed-use development includes a rooftop restaurant, banquet hall, retail, and more that we'll touch on later. Next slide, please. We see this site as a very unique site with its proximity to the park, and we think it's a great opportunity to bring a number of amenities to the area, right? So it already touched on our custom design that'll permeate through all these amenities. Right, so we see a rooftop restaurant, which I touched on, with great never-to-be-interrupted views on the 7th floor. Banquet space on that top floor, too, great for weddings and other local events. Lower meeting areas for community meetings and as well as businesses. Lobby cafe, offering opportunity to buy gelato, coffee, etc. for those using the park as well as our guests. An activity center, too, for various rentals of sporting equipment, frisbees, things that, of course, our guests might need to use the park, but also open to locals as well. Retail spaces along 13th and 21st, providing activation, and as we touched on in our community benefits, an opportunity to also introduce our guests to genuine local businesses, right? There's a great synergy with us offering a local experience as a hotel, as well as having those local business experience there. We're not looking for Starbucks. Right. Green Bike Station, we're hoping for a partnership with them, either on our property or in the park, to provide access to all those trails that connect. And we'll be providing underground parking as well to accommodate more than the car capacity needed for our project. And finally, a hotel's great as a 24-hour presence on the neighborhood, as it's an always open business, always staffed. What's really neat about our hotel use is that a hotel is as close as a business can come to being a private business, but with public benefit, right? If we were apartments, you'd have to pay a lot of money in rent to stay there, or know somebody. If we were an office building, you'd have to sign a lease or visit. Our hotel use and all these amenities are, you can come visit and be our customer for the price of a cup of coffee. Next slide, please. Just a few words on our rezone. A few words on our rezone. We see it consistent with the overall general plan. We think our hotel use supports adjacent Sugar House businesses. As far as our height request goes, our site location is some distance from single-family homes. We're asking for a lower height than the MU11 zoning across the street. And as this image here shows, our building height is of similar heights to already existing buildings. Next slide, please. Again, just touched on, is complementary use to the park and the business district as a bridge. There's hotel use, as was touched on earlier, is not possible with existing zoning, so all that hotel benefits can only be achieved through the rezone. And to address some possible concerns, we have this image here that shows the dark area here is what could be built under existing zoning. That's a 40 feet height. Our ghosted hotel on top shows our additional ask with MU8, and we had tried to identify the view impact to respond to some of that, to neighborhood feedback, and we hope this shows well. Next slide, please. So yeah, in short, we see a good synergy and a good fit with this special lot, honestly. It's a very unique lot with the only privately owned place east of 13th. We see a goal to connect the park, one of the biggest parks in Salt Lake, with the city. As touched on, that zoning enables that hotel private business as a public hub. We see a local design and aesthetic to it, not cookie cutter process. Multiple amenities provided.
Time.
Supporting. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much, Councilmember Young.
Thank you. And I do just want to say, I really have appreciated you both and the members of your team who are here in terms of coming and engaging with the community. It has been a long process. It has been a thoughtful process. And I do really appreciate that you have, approached it with a listening ear, and that I have personally seen changes in the evolution over time. So that is appreciated. What I'd like to do is kind of walk you through some of the existing community concerns that I think we still have questions about. And I understand that there will be some that you have answers for, and there may be others where you're like, we're gonna have to get back to you on that one. So either way works, but I wanna just make sure that you have that opportunity to respond to some of the additional concerns that we're still hearing and that I'm still hearing as the representative for the area. So I think first I'm gonna go to the community benefits side of things. So when we're looking at community benefits, there is a opportunity to be able to offer a reduced market rate rent. So when we say that 25% off, can you speak a little bit about how that is calculated and what does that mean in terms of affordability? Because I hear often that the affordability of any business unit in Sugar House is just not reasonable. And so whether or not that 25% would make a difference to a business, I'm just interested in your feedback.
No, it's a great question. We took inspiration in crafting that from various things that we see on the housing side, right? Sort of a reduced below market rate housing that we haven't seen applied to commercial, but we thought it seemed appropriate in this area where we all have a common goal of encouraging local business, helping them stay in an area that admittedly has seen a lot of turnover with higher rents. So we looked at it with that, again, low income inspiration, and in this case, though, targeting local, and said we can do a study. We already have preliminary to see what market rent is currently, and come in at least 25% or more less than that. I think our current math shows about high 30s on the per square foot per year on the current market rent, and around 28 or so. These are approximate numbers. We can submit formally later. Conforms to this and helps a tenant, maybe the food truck operator looking to step up to brick and mortar, or someone who doesn't have quite the ability to otherwise afford the rent to grow their business in the hotel.
Yeah, I would appreciate that additional information. I think that it's helpful related to that benefit. The second component to it ties in with the ability to do kind of the renovations and improvements and providing a credit for that. So I'm going to kind of put those two together. Let's chat about parking, though. So parking as a benefit is that individuals who are either visiting or maybe visiting the surrounding areas would be able to pay to park in your lot. Is that what the proposal looks like?
Yes, that's correct. We have intentionally sized the garage to be noticeably in excess of the amount of parking spots that our third-party parking study has concluded we need for our hotel and retail uses. We've done that at cost, but with the idea of listening to the feedback of the locals that recognized that parking's a problem, right? We didn't just want to solve our own problem. We wanted to step above that to help. We can't claim to solve, but to help the problem that already exists in the area.
And do you have like a general estimate of what that parking rate would look like?
We don't have an exact reference. I'm happy to be open. Our basic pro forma does have it be, I want to say, for a full day parking, so it's full day overnight, around $30 is our current estimate. It would obviously be less than that for, I'd say, a 2-hour parking.
Okay, so I think one of the pieces of feedback that I've heard, and at least that resonates with me, is the concern about that being a community benefit in the context of which this proposal is being kind of pitched, which is that, yes, parking is certainly an issue in Sugar House. I don't know anyone who would tell you otherwise in terms of the businesses. And when it comes to the park, that being a community benefit is a challenge because there is free parking in the park. And so being able to kind of say, does that have the same value of free parking that it would in the core of Sugar House versus knowing that individuals who are visiting the park could just park, 30 feet away and be able to walk in? Like, how does that translate? And that's not necessarily a question to be answered in this space, but it is something that I think I'm considering as a representative for the area, is like, how does that, in the context of where it's being proposed, translate to a true community benefit or not? And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I can give a quick answer if that's all right. I mean, we look at it in a similar way to off-street parking, the $7 that I paid to park out front here for 2 hours for this meeting. It's not free, but it's still an amenity for the space. And as far as the dollars and cents goes, the cost of adding those additional spots far exceeds any day revenue from it, is where we'd argue the benefit comes from. We'd save millions of dollars by shrinking the garage to our minimum size, or even our minimum allowed by city code. And we've chose to go above that at great expense and bad, admittedly, ROI, and calling it a benefit, right? And calling it providing that option.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I think the parking is inherently challenging just based on the site. And so I understand, and I'm just sharing this for the other council members as well, that in order to be able to create parking, you kind of have two options at any site, right? You can go down or you can go up. Going up was something that was considered in one of the earlier versions of this proposal in terms of, but that would require the site to go to MU11, and that wasn't something that the community could get behind in any way, shape, or form. So the new solution is that we go down, and that also creates some challenges historically related to the conversation about this property all the way back to when it was being considered for a gas station. And it's a question of risk related to the water table. And I think Amanda spoke to it as part of planning, where it's like, okay, you can go down. And I know you have an engineering study that says, yes, that is possible. But I think one of the questions that I keep hearing is one of risk, where it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you can without risk. And how are we balancing those pieces out? So when we talk about the parking, how many spots is it currently in the current proposal?
It's 185 spots. That includes some valet parking, predominantly for the hotel guests of a stacker configuration. And I appreciate what you said about the going deeper for height concerns. It ties to the cost impacts that I mentioned earlier, why it's not a profitable venture to just do parking on that site because of the digging and excavation. To the valid local concern about is there an impact on water and flooding and whatnot, and we've provided we have addendums to our proposal here. We could queue up if you wanted to see, but they're also on the record for later review by everybody. We've some documentation from our engineers showing how far away from the floodplain from Parley's Creek we are. We have documentation provided, as you alluded to, and I know you've reviewed it, showing the water table. Right, I had in preparation for this meeting, I had a conversation with our general contractor today, actually, who's also doing the Highland High School rebuild nearby, very trusted, reputable group, and our average excavation deep is 33 feet with a few places deeper, and our water table is at 51 feet, the static water table. So we're outside of the floodplain, we're above the water table, and we're behind and out of impact from any earthen dam or overflowing concerns as specified by the county engineer and the state flood team.
Thank you. I think the last piece that I'll end with, because I know I've taken more than my fair share of time, and so thank you, Chair. I appreciate the flexibility. I think is kind of a larger question that was touched upon in Planning Commission, and again, just want to raise it for the other council members here. When we're looking at increasing density here within the city, one of the things that has been a huge driver and something that I've been passionate about, as I know others on the council have, is that we really want to look at it in terms of affordability. This project, being a hotel, doesn't necessarily tackle that affordability component. That's not to say that every project across the city has to have that aspect, but it was a question that I at least, was considering in the Planning Commission component when they were looking at alignment of plans and trying to figure out how that use case fits within that structure in that area. Again, I appreciate that you guys have done quite a bit to be able to try and find middle ground where possible. We're also looking at the dollars and cents and appreciate the opportunity to ask the questions of the community. I know there's more coming related to our public comment process, and look forward to continuing to dialogue about some of those pieces as we weigh the pros and cons.
Council members?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I share many of those concerns, or questions you share, especially the framing of a community benefit. And I still need to dig in a little bit more. Maybe I need to understand a little bit how that plays out. It's certainly when we are asked to rezone a property, we define very clearly what the benefit is to the community, and I do struggle about this. Let me ask you. You said that there is going to be 145 rooms.
Correct, yes.
How many parking spots again?
185.
185. And how many employees you said 75 jobs or something like that, but how many you anticipate at a given time?
At a given time, 75 is the total amount. At a given time, at peak time, and I'll clarify why I say that, let's call it 15 to 20 would be approximate. And then, if I may, I would highlight the uniqueness about the business model of all hotels, not just ours, is the not quite inverse, but the mixed timing of when employees work at the hotel relative to when guests are there. It creates a very efficient use of parking swaps, right? Our peak employee time is, let's say, housekeeping and the day jobs, the admin positions that are done in regular business hours, which are inverse to when our guests are usually at the hotel. At 10 a.m., we're cleaning rooms, guests are at business meetings.
Yeah, and then that added to a business at the bottom. We're not talking about a significant amount of parking spots generally. I mean, it's probably you might have an equation for that. Maybe it would be great to know what that equation is. But if it's a restaurant or something along those lines, or something, you mentioned a food truck moving up to brick and mortar. So talking about a restaurant, talking about potentially dozens of people coming in by vehicle on top of your employees, on top of your guests, or whatever guests there are at that given time. We're not talking necessarily about a significant amount of parking spots that are really available. And I also I struggle again. We probably should be talking a little more offline about this community benefit and how it's defined better. Struggle with the concept of the cost of it as well. And certainly the environmental issues. We went through a lot of back and forth in the past to ensure that the water table and the park was safe. Considering certainly this option, and it was very well put. When you have a gas station or your project, certainly there is one project that is superior than the other one. But I still have environmental concerns about this project, and I would like to answer those and for the peace of mind. And when you're talking about like the height of the building, it seems like the Westminster building across the street is about 2 stories shorter. I mean, I was just looking at the photo that you posted. It is an interesting angle. It shows us that are very similar, but they aren't, right? This is a significant. I mean, your rendering shows it to be 2 stories taller. Is that correct?
Exactly. That building is a little shorter. The Redmond building nearby is of similar height, though. It is, but yes, that one is a little shorter.
Around the corner. Okay. Yeah, and certainly, height generally is not one of my concerns, but for the purpose of where we are here negotiating, I want to highlight that this is where we get the chance to negotiate community benefits and understand that we will like answers on those questions. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council members? Okay.
Would it help if we put some of that information together as a supplemental information packet to the council to answer some of those questions?
I think council staff will reach out to you to answer some of those questions, and maybe we can schedule something.
I'd love it. I'd love the ability.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
We're going to move on the agenda. Thank you, everyone. Item number 2 is an ordinance for a master plan and zoning map amendment at approximately 527, 537, and 539 South, 400 East. Joining us at the table will be Austin Kimmel, Council Policy Analyst, and Olivia Quetco, Principal Planner.
Thanks, council members. Like you mentioned, this is a briefing on a proposal to amend the Central Community Master Plan Future Land Use Map from medium-high density residential to high-density mixed use, and to rezone 3 properties located at 527, 537, and 539 South, 400 East from RMF 45 to MU 5. The petitioner proposes to demolish 3 existing single-family homes and to construct a mixed-use apartment building with ground floor commercial space. This project is intended to complement the adjacent 6-story apartment building to the north, which is under the same ownership. The proposed ordinance requires the petitioner to enter into a development agreement with Salt Lake City that includes 3 specific conditions. First, all 3 demolished dwelling units on the property must be replaced with at least 3 2-bedroom units. Second, a minimum of 1,100 square feet of commercial space must be provided on the ground floor. And third, tenants displaced from the demolition of existing residential units must be provided with tenant relocation assistance. The Planning Commission voted to forward a positive recommendation during its December 10th meeting, and further details will be provided by Olivia from the Planning Division.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As mentioned, this is a request for a general plan amendment and a zoning map amendment for a project that will be known as the Citizen 2 at about 537 South and 400 East. If you could do next slide for me. Thank you. Okay, so more details about this request. There is a general plan amendment associated with this to amend the Central Community Master Plan map for the subject properties from medium high-density residential to high-density mixed use, and an associated zoning map amendment to amend those same properties from RMF 45 to MU 5. Specific development plans have not been submitted at this time. The applicant is proposing to do a 5-story mixed-use development with studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom units, and ground floor commercial facing 400 East. Next slide. So the Central Community Plan was adopted in 2005. I have the subject properties outlined here in blue. The existing land use category calls for about 30 to 50 units per acre and up to 4 stories in height, and residential uses only. The requested land use category offers a little bit of flexibility, permitting ground floor retail and commercial uses that would not be permitted under the medium high density residential. It also increases the maximum density allowed on the property and does not specify a height. Next slide. Similarly, here's a little breakdown of the RMF 45 code and the proposed MU5. So this is, what's permitted today on the lot versus what would be permitted if if the zoning map and master plan amendment were approved. So the RMF 45 allows 45 feet of height and requires 750 square feet per unit with a maximum of 20 units per building form. Under this code, the applicant could accommodate roughly 29 units across 2 buildings by right. Under the proposed MU5, this is a mixed-use district, so it does not designate a maximum density. Rather, it just limits the building form itself. So we would get a 10-foot height increase for a maximum height of 55 feet. The setbacks change a little bit, and there is no cap on the density. Next slide, please. I pulled this picture in. I think it's a good visualization of the height in the area. The building that is under construction in this picture is now completed. It's the Citizen 1. And you can see the condo properties directly across the street. Those are 5 stories high, which is what this property is requesting. The properties just to the south are 2 stories high. And next slide. Okay, so the plan amendment and the zoning amendment both require the applicant to propose a community benefit. The community benefit that the applicant has proposed is adding some commercial space on the ground floor. They have proposed 1,100 square feet, which is roughly half of the ground floor facade along 400 East. And I pulled in this map from our Walkable SLC project to show that there is a gap right here of retail, restaurant type uses in the area, commercial uses. So this is their community benefit they're proposing, and if you'll go to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about the tenant displacement, which is also required if a general plan and zoning map amendment is likely to demolish existing housing. So this picture here shows the 3 single-family homes. 2 of them are, I believe 2 of them are occupied. 1 of them is boarded up. So the applicant would be required to replace all 3 of these units with, within their new development. These are each 2-bedroom unit or 2-bedroom homes. So the applicant would be providing 3 2-bedroom units within their new development to replace that. The full required assistance for those tenants that have the potential to be displaced from the 2 occupied homes. Next slide. On December 10th, the Planning Commission did vote to forward a positive recommendation for both the general plan amendment and the zoning map amendment with the identified community benefit and tenant displacement and unit replacement plan. Next slide, and I believe that is all I have. And the applicant is here today as well.
Council members, any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
This might be a question actually to the applicant as well, but I just had questions how many units they were planning in the pro forma. I know I'd met with them previously. They were planning a lot of studios, so I was just curious what that unit breakup would look like.
I have not received a unit breakdown yet.
Do we know on Citizens One how many studios are in there?
Oh, that is a good question, and I don't know.
That would be best directed towards the applicant.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be curious if they want to answer.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Yes, let's come on here. Yeah, we'll have 5 minutes to present. There's 2 spots, so we can make 2 spots available. Thank you. We can give you 5 minutes, unless you want to ask this question ahead of time, Councilmember Lopez Chavez. No?
Push it. Yeah, my name is Steve Broadbent. I'm with Thrive Development. Unfortunately, Russ Polson is sick today, so I am filling in for him. So I will do my best to answer your questions, and then
My name is Scott Alder. I am with the development team as well. We own the property for the Citizen One directly to the north since 2000, with Legal Defenders was in there, and then when they moved out, we transitioned it into the apartments, and then we're also part of the development team on the Citizen Two.
You speak to the microphone a little closer to the microphone.
Sorry about that.
Do you want to answer the question from Councilmember Lopez Chavez?
Yeah, my question was just the unit breakdown of Citizens Two, but it sounds like if you don't have that, could you help me understand Citizens One? Because I know when we previously met, we had discussed the studio concentrations for your project and just wanted to break that up since we are wanting more family-sized housing in this area.
yeah, so the number of units will depend on the unit mix, obviously. The bigger units will take more space. The unit mix is not finalized yet. We're working on market studies, but it's a combination of 2, 1, and studio units. And it would be some number over 100 units right now, just over 100.
Sure. On Citizens One, will you remind me what the unit allocation is?
Yeah, I'll pull that up for you.
Some of the feedback that we got during going to the community council and whatnot was that they didn't want as many studios, and so we were taking that back out and doing a market study and trying to see what the market really wants. I will tell you that the things that we have rented at the Citizen were the first things that go are their studios and the 2 bedrooms. The 1 bedrooms have been the most difficult for us.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, because I know in District 4, the vacancies went up significantly for studios specifically. A Newmark study showed that by the end of Q4 in 2025, it was about 17% vacancy. So I know that's something we discussed prior, but just wanted to raise that still as a community concern. And then I wanted to understand where, right now you're parking on Citizens One, the egress point is Denver Street. Denver is very small. I wouldn't say it's pedestrian safe, nor is it really a great place for vehicular access. Will they be sharing lots? Are you building a separate lot for the 100 units on Citizens 2? Can you explain your transportation needs there too?
Yeah, so Citizen One looks like, we can confirm these numbers, but approximately 20% of the units are studio. So 264 units total and 55-ish studio units. And then regarding the parking, Citizen One would be utilizing the same parking structure.
Okay. How many parking stalls is that total? Do you know?
So we oversized the parking. If I remember right, it's 284 stalls.
Okay.
So
That
it's
sounds
more
about-
stalls than we needed, anticipating. We had already acquired some of this land, and so we were anticipating future phases.
Got it. Okay. That's really helpful for me. I'd love to understand what does that look like for if there was a transportation analysis just to help decongest Denver Street. If I've walked it since it's a byway to Smith's, and it's been unsafe is what I'll say. But we just want to create healthy, livable conditions for future renters. And I think I'd love to see as close as we can get to family-sized housing in that breakdown. I think we see studios in this area And that's great. If you're having good stabilization and lease up, I'm happy to hear that. I'd love to just understand what the retention of those units are also, because I think what we're seeing is studios are affordable, but then we don't have good retention right now. And I think that's something that the community sees as a benefit. If we're going to rezone and really consolidate the unit supply mix here, then making sure that that density is actually contributing to anchoring neighbors long-term would be awesome.
Okay.
Any other questions, council members? Oh, yes, go ahead, Councilmember Dugan.
Just kind of piggybacking on the last question about the affordability side of the house. Are there any affordability units, 80% AMI or lower, or mixed income housing on this?
Just the units that we're replacing.
Just the 3 units you're replacing
Yeah.
will be 80% AMI and lower?
I think it's a different formula, and maybe you know it better than I do, but I think it's based on the current rent.
Okay, it's based on the current rent.
Yeah.
But just replacing those, affordability on those 3 units, the rest of it would be all market rate?
Right.
And no for sale, all just for rent?
Correct.
For lease? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was curious for staff, is there a way in the agreement to give the first option to leasing to the current tenants? Is that something that we've done before at all?
Only one of the units
Or,
currently has a tenant,
got it,
just
okay.
as a side note.
I was just curious if
Yeah.
that's something that we give the options. We don't often contribute that way, but I was just curious if that's something that was possible.
The timing will be also kind of
For sure,
right?
yeah.
Since the building will come down, the other one will have to be built. Councilmember Erica.
I wanted to follow up on Councilmember Lopez Chavez's questions about parking. As I understand, this proposed Citizen 2 is a 100-unit building. It sounds like the unit mix is yet to be determined. Sounds like you've got 284 spots in Citizen 1. How many of those spots are currently occupied?
We currently have, well, it's not completely full right now. But what we're finding is it's about 0.7 stalls per unit is right where the demand seems to be shaking out based on the current occupancy.
Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, given, the car dependency of our city, even though we want to promote walkability, will there be enough parking for people to be able to park in the shared parking option? And given that the current building is using the parking as well, how are you thinking about that possible overflow and what that might look like in terms of impact to the neighborhood and street parking?
Yeah, so we have more than 1 stall per unit on the current building. We have about 20 more stalls, in fact. And we will, fingers crossed, leasing continues at a decent pace. We should know at full occupancy exactly how many stalls we're using here soon. But assuming that it continues at the same rate it is right now, we would have ample parking for both projects.
I think building on both of yours, I would like to know currently on Citizen, what are the fee schedule for tenants? Is parking an amenity that people have to pay for? And what other fees you require, that are not built into your rent, and what fees are optional? That to me is important to understand how your business model works a little bit from the perspective of a renter. Ultimately, I want to make sure that if I personally vote for an upzone, that I'm being fair to the community as a whole. Unfortunately, I've seen very bad cases of hidden fees everywhere, mandatory fees to renters. And if you have a fee associated to your parking, unfortunately, many people might choose not to pay for that and pay in the streets. And I would like to know how that breaks down. So if you are willing, that will be a very important piece for me to understand how I feel about the upzone at the moment. So,
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to a number of items. Number 3, an ordinance for the recurring nuisance properties. This is a follow-up. briefing. We're going to have Michael Saunders, Council Policy Analyst, giving us a brief description. Mary Beth Thompson, maybe Chief Financial Officer, is involved in this project. Arturo Garcia, Director of Finance Operations. Bill Manzanares, Deputy Chief of Police. And Catherine Pasker, Senior City Attorney. And Michael, it's your time.
Okay, thank you, Council. So just as a reminder, in September of 2025, the Council was briefed on a proposal from the administration which would have prohibited alcohol consumption in common areas, all commercial and non-residential properties between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., and introduced an administrative process to both declare a nuisance and enforce on them. Today, the proposal has been updated and solely contains the administrative process to declare and enforce on nuisances. The alcohol consumption provision has been removed. The staff report has been updated from the September 9th, 2025 briefing with new information in blue. With that, I'll turn it over to the administration for their presentation and for your questions.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, council members, and appreciate your time. What we're asking today is to adopt the responsible owner ordinance, establishing a clear administrative process for chronic nuisance businesses. And I'll be covering just what we're trying to solve with this ordinance and then the administrative process for that. If we can move to the next slide, please. So this ordinance, the problem that we're trying to solve, this ordinance addresses properties that generate repeated calls, ongoing disturbances, unsafe conditions. Because the court-based nuisance cases are slow and resource intensive, the city needs a clear, consistent process with measurable standards to intervene sooner before the problem escalates or worsens, thereby placing a burden on residents and businesses and the public safety as well. So this ordinance delivers earlier flexible intervention with a timely administrative action to prevent escalation and reduce calls of service and stabilize hotspots throughout the city. Fairness and accountability, so clear standards and correction first process that holds owners responsible when problems persist, and resource relief and outcome. Addresses repeated locations, reduces ongoing enforcement burdens, and supports safer commerce and neighborhoods. If we can move to the next slide. So this is a simple tiered administration process. The ordinance clearly defines when a business is presumed to be creating a nuisance, whether it's repeated incidents, ongoing violations. However, it gives the property or the business the opportunity to address the issue before it escalates. And if the issue persists, the city sends out a notice and an abatement plan that lists the issues, explains what must be fixed and by when, and then it includes the right to appeal as well. If we don't see any improvement and the problems still aren't corrected, the city may impose the fines and eventually suspend or revoke the business. But I want to emphasize that throughout the process, there is the administrative appeals process, and that follows the 275 process where they're able to speak with the hearing officer, and if they disagree with the determination, they can appeal it with the administrative appeals officer.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Petro.
Yeah.
Are the words incident, violation, and nuisance calls being used interchangeably here, or is there a separate definition for each of those things?
There's a separate definition for those cases. So for a nuisance, what we're currently seeing is a property that's currently having 3 or more incidents or ongoing violations with the city, whether that's police responding to a location, whether there's a great example that I gave in the transmittal would be whether it's just call for services for nuisance that's whether responding to drug-related activity in front of the property, or it's public drinking or harassment by passengers. Sorry, thank you. And so that refusal from the business to address any of those issues, then that's when we would like to step in and see if we can correct some of those problems.
So this just gives you more flexibility to identify what is actually a nuisance versus what is not. They seem like really different thresholds to me, like 3 incidents in 6 months versus an ongoing for 30 days. Those feel like a very different intensity to me. And so but this is just giving you all the tools you need.
Correct.
To be more expansive.
Yeah, and so it is a collaboration between multiple departments where the business license will be actually reviewing the reports, and they'll be determining whether to dismiss that call, whether it's one instance or it's a constant problem.
So we're not saying that someone has to wait 30 solid days or have an aggregate of 3 and 6 months. By the time we get to the third day, that feels like 3 and 6 months. Like,
it is a lot faster than the current process, the current judicial process that, you know, it's currently taking over a year. And maybe Catherine can.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember, for the question. Catherine Pasker, Senior City Attorney. That's one piece of clarification that we did want to update the ordinance with, just clarifying what violations, I mean, this concept is already in the ordinance, like we mentioned, those ongoing condition types of violations, and we wanted to be more clear about what specific things we're talking about in that situation. It's the litter, it's the outdoor storage, it's the, you know, stuff that can sit, it's the dumping, it's the idle construction where, you know, hey, you give someone a warning letter, give them a little time to take care of it themselves. We don't want to have to wait for 30 days if there's a serious violent incident, and we just want to be clear with people. Some things, you know, the city is going to give you time to deal with, and some things maybe it isn't as appropriate to give you a lot of time to deal with it.
And I just have one more slide, if we can move to the last slide.
You okay waiting?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So the safeguards to prevent overuse, so objective triggers, again, the city will only act when there's documented patterns, and this would be by business license. They'll be tracking that process. So not just a single complaint, and then define nuisance standards. We talked about it a little bit, and then the chance to fix remedial measures, right? Where they'll get the notice, like Catherine said, to address that issue. If not, then we'll proceed with the next steps. Complaint intake standards. So complaints must include time, location, and known verified contact plus evidence. Consistency controls. Again, only confirmed events, whether police reports or civil enforcement reports, that will be used towards the threshold. Duplicate and non-verifiable claims will not count. And then substantiation rule. So upon passage of the ordinance, the administration will set standard decision guide, staff training, centralized tracking to help ensure that the same rules apply to everywhere. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Councilman Wharton, are you ready for Councilman Wharton?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So this, I just wanted to double check because in the second slide, it says a property / business. So this doesn't apply to residential, right?
It does not apply to residential.
It does.
It does?
Yes.
Oh, it does apply. Okay. Okay, so could it be, okay, what if somebody just has like a really messy divorce and they're they've called the police like 3 times in, you know, a 1-month period? Could they be designated a nuisance property?
So we have very specific standards, right, for what constitutes a nuisance, and you know, if it's more of those continuing, did you give a specific example, Councilmember Side?
No, let's just say they're calling the police on each other because they're fighting, and or and I guess it could, if it was loud enough, maybe other people could call. But I just want to make sure that we're not, accidentally including things that maybe we don't want to include.
Sure, yeah, noise is not included in the types of violations. That's handled and enforced in a different manner. But it would have to fall into a specific, category of nuisance. And then for those things that are ongoing, I mean, every property owner would have an opportunity to cure. And even if, it wasn't cured within the amount of time that you needed to, the city has the abatement plan option where, if it's stuff being stored outside, if it's, I can't think of another,
Yes, maybe that would.
There's not a lot of great, residential, problem things that would be happening. If it's police calls, there would still be that abatement plan option, and that could look like a lot of different solutions.
Okay, can we get a list of maybe like what are the defined nuisances? Because that would be good, I think, to know. Because my assumption was that noise would be on there, but if it's not, it's probably a good thing for my example. But I just want to know what the other ones are.
Happy to do that.
And then my second question is: are there other cities that use an administrative process for nuisances in Utah, or would be the first?
Yes, so West Valley City uses it for their abatement of, outdoor storage issues. So we've seen, administrative processes are pretty standard as a way to kind of deal with these issues. I think it's more inventive to deal with on a property side, but South Salt Lake also utilizes an administrative process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the part about the residential, because that was my question. So I'm just now, it says, I'm just trying to figure out the city may pursue business license suspension and revocation, but you have a rental property. And how does that license revocation solve the issue of someone renting the house who's causing a problem? So I'm just trying to figure out how the fine works on the residential side, not so much the fast food restaurant or the 7-Eleven type corner store.
Well, we're trying to, the hope with this ordinance is that we're going to notify the property owner so they're aware and they can address the issue before it escalates. So we're hoping to intervene with a little bit sooner prior than once it escalates. So a lot of the times maybe the property owners are not aware of the ongoing issue. Like we've seen with the loud parties, when we notify them, they actually address the issue with the tenant. So that's what we hope to do.
All right, thanks.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for the clarification that this would intersect with residential properties. Can you help me understand, because as I was understanding, it would primarily be for commercial properties. Is that right? This is
That is the primary genesis, yes.
Okay. And given that this does apply to residential properties, help me understand how this interacts with our existing ordinances as it relates to vacant and boarded buildings and the ways in which those are often areas of nuisance for a neighborhood as well.
As I represent civil enforcement, so I'm on that a little bit, but I will have my colleagues speak in if they so wish. But what's envisioned is for this to only cover a very narrow band of what would happen on a residential property. The remedies would give the city the ability to enter into those abatement plans, pursue an abatement in a much more efficient way than is currently happening. But with respect to the boarded buildings and specifically, I mean, that's a registration process that happens right now for civil enforcement to monitor, make sure they're being secured, make sure that boarding is staying in place. we would still receive complaints about nuisances happening at that property. But given that it's, there's no one there, we would envision the remedies being of a more kind of tailored nature to that use, right? Maybe it's you need to install some fencing around your property to deal with that. Litter is accumulating here. Maybe, a dumpster or a trash can needs to be installed to deal with that litter in that location. Maybe some illegal activity is happening, around the back. Maybe a security camera or some lighting might be appropriate here to try to deter that kind of activity.
Any other? Michael?
Yeah, just to address the question regarding the list of what a nuisance conduct could possibly be just inside of the transmittal paperwork and the administrative draft, on lines 48 through 85, there's a substantial list that includes nuisance conduct. It is including but not limited to that list. And just to address your question on the noise, subsection P addresses the noise fouling of the air with offensive odors or contaminants, excessive dust, or excessive loud noise.
What was that?
That's odorous materials and
excessive loud noise as
okay,
well.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts? Okay, I want to acknowledge the significant progress we made in this draft ordinance, and there are specific cases in some of our districts where there are some businesses that are creating and knowing so creating nuisance and sincerely not caring about what the impact they have in our community. And I can think several of them, unfortunately, in North Temple and in other areas of the city. So I'm hoping that this speeds up the process and solves many of the issues we have seen and the amount of resources we have to invest on trying to mitigate the impact. So I appreciate the administration working with us and the concerns from the community as a whole too. So that it concludes this item. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to go to an informational. Now, item number 4 is an informational item for expanding housing options, zoning text amendment update. We're going to have Michael Saunders stay at the table, who's our council policy analyst. We're going to invite planning staff, Ben Buckley, principal planner, Anding Holka, senior planner, and Nick Norris, I'm sure, is somewhere in the building working on something else. So.
Okay, great, thanks. So on March 4th of 2025, the council approved a legislative action which requested the administration to consider consolidating and simplifying the R1 single-family residential districts, including updates to residential flag lot standards, new housing options, and to also consider similar changes in other low-density districts. The council requested that the city's housing, walkability, and water conservation goals also be considered. The full legislative action is also found in Attachment A of the staff report. The administration has responded to this legislative action with their proposal today called Expanding Housing Options. This proposal includes a new permitted use for the R1, 2, and SR1 and SR1A zones called a small lot dwelling. Additionally, the proposal consolidates the residential zones into tables and includes modifications to various developmental standards, including changes to building height, setbacks, lot width, and building coverage. Flag lot standards have also been updated. Just as a note, this proposal is informational only right now. It has not yet received a planning commission recommendation, and there are several tabling and open houses scheduled to gather more community feedback. Today, the planning division is looking for feedback on the proposal from the council. And with that, I'll pass it to the planning division.
Awesome, thanks for having us. My name is Ben, with me is Andy and John. We're gonna try to be really quick with this, but please feel free to jump in at any time. Next slide, please. What is expanding housing options? As you know, City Council initiated these changes, this proposal to try to attempt to ease the housing shortage. The primary goal is to enable infill housing that is in scale with the existing neighborhood, as well as being attainable, whether that's either for sale or for rent. It would impact those zones that Michael listed off, the R1, R2, SR1, and SR1A zones. That's 36% of all land in Salt Lake City and 77% of all residential land. Next slide, please. This is the map of the identified properties. You can see it takes up a pretty large swath of the residential areas and a pretty large chunk of kind of the core of Salt Lake City. Next slide, please.
Alrighty, so just to give you a couple highlights of the key components of this project. First, it would create new zoning regulations for certain types of buildings, including smaller single-family dwellings, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and townhomes up to 4 units. It would also make some changes to the existing base zones, those R1, R2, SR1, and SR1A zoning districts, including some changes to things like setbacks, height, and lot coverage, and also changes to flag lots. A few things the proposal does not do. We're not proposing to eliminate single-family zoning. This would not prohibit construction of new large single-family homes. It would not require all new construction to follow the new small lot standards. It wouldn't make any changes to the historic districts and would not rezone any properties in the city. Next slide, please.
Why are we proposing this? I'm not going to go through all of this, but housing is extremely expensive in Salt Lake City. $615,000 is the median home cost. 72% of Salt Lake City households cannot afford that these days. So we're just trying we don't think we're going to solve that completely, but if we can lower that to 50%, that's great. Next slide, please. Thank you. Shrinking homeowner back one. Yes, perfect. Thank you. We have a lot of shrinking home ownership opportunities in the city as well. Only 43.5% of the city is home ownership. The state is 69%. 86.4% of renters are priced out of home ownership, which is a extremely large portion. Next slide, please. We also have significantly fewer children in the city. Since 2000, Salt Lake City has gained over 36,000 total residents, but has lost nearly 10,000 children from its population. And so we're trying to encourage more housing to bring back families to the city. Next slide, please. Lastly, Kim C. Gardner found that condos, townhomes, and twin homes can cost up to $150,000 less than that of a single family home in the state of Utah. And then Durham, North Carolina, who we've gotten a lot of this from, they found that small lot dwellings were $250,000 less than their average standard single family home. And then Portland found that up to $300,000 less their median missing middle housing was than a single detached home. Next slide.
So based on that data, those findings, we found that the most important strategies are to allow more housing, new types of housing, missing middle types of housing, and housing on smaller lot sizes. So based on that research, this proposal would set up a new set of standards for a new land use designation, what we're calling small lot dwellings. Think of this like an ADU. It's a different type of building that has its own rules in the zoning code. So this would be a new set of rules for new smaller dwellings. Under this provision, some of the key components that would be allowed are new building types, as mentioned, up to a fourplex or townhomes. Smaller lot sizes required per unit, but in order to be considered a small lot dwelling, the new buildings would need to meet size limitations on the footprint and the floor area that's allowed to be built. We're also proposing a requirement of 1 parking space per unit for these new units. Next slide, please. We've had a few questions come up on the difference between footprint and gross floor area. I won't go in detail on this, but the footprint is just the space the building takes on the land. You can see that area highlighted in yellow on the left image. But then on the right, you can see the floor area would include not only the footprint, but also the amount of space on each level in the home. Next slide. We won't go through, we've got all of the charts and tables. If you have specific questions about any of the height or setbacks or any of the standards proposed, please let us know. Overall, we are proposing that all of the new standards be in a table so it's easy to read, and largely that the small lot dwellings would be similar standards to what's allowed in the base zone.
Here are the R1 amendments. These would apply to R1, all three R1 zones. I'm not going to go through them all, but most notably, there's a small increase in building height just to kind of align with surrounding municipalities, as well as getting a functional two-story building if you're going with a flat roof. We're standardizing. Can you go back one slide, please? Thank you. We're standardizing side yards and front yards across the zones. We're increasing the building coverage, and then notably, it's not on this table, but we are removing the lot width. We think that there are enough guardrails in place to kind of self-regulate there. Next slide. Same thing with R2. Their changes are very similar to the R1. We are removing a quirky little footnote that is in the R2 district that limits how many duplexes that could potentially be built on a block face. We think it's impractical for our zone that should allow for duplexes to actually turn around and limit them in a way. Next slide.
And then the last base zones that are being amended are the SR1 and SR1A zones. These are the special residential districts, most common in the Avenues and Capitol Hill areas. Again, similar proposed changes are listed. Notably, the SR1A district has a shorter maximum building height than the other zones that are being considered. And so this proposal would increase the height slightly there in those zones, but at the same rate as what's proposed elsewhere. Next slide, please.
We are also modifying the flag lot standards. Right now, flag lots are conditional use. That's an additional 3 to 6 months of a process that you're going to have to go through. We're proposing to make it just a permitted use to ease that. We're also modifying some standards like lot size and driveway width. And then right now, flag lots are only permitted for single-family dwellings. They would still be permitted for single-family dwellings, but we would also allow for small lot dwellings up to the 4 units, as long as they have the lot size and such. Next slide, please.
We've had questions come up about the difference between this proposal and what's allowed under the affordable housing incentives that you recently passed. Again, for time's sake, I won't go through each bullet point, but generally speaking, both sections of the code allow builders to build up to a 4-plex or townhomes. The key difference between the two is that under affordable housing incentives, the affordability is regulated by restricting the price, either the rental or sale price of the unit. The expanding housing options proposal aims at affordability by limiting the unit size instead of the price. The idea is that smaller homes on smaller lots are inherently cheaper and more affordable to residents. Next slide, please.
We've also had a couple questions about the Utah First-Time Homebuyer Program. It's hard to predict what these would actually sell for. That program does require the home be $450,000 or less. Going back to the data from other cities that we've seen in Kim C. Gardner's research, we do think that most of these homes would qualify, but again, it's hard to confirm that. Next slide, please.
Another question that's come up in this discussion is water conservation. It is our goal that this project will implement some of the strategies that are in Plan Salt Lake. So Plan Salt Lake recently adopted a water conservation chapter, which recommends a policy of reducing lot sizes to reduce per capita water consumption. We also have research showing that smaller lots and smaller setbacks can lead to more efficient water use. Interestingly, some research from the state shows that about 95% of indoor water ends up returning to the Great Salt Lake, whereas only about 20% of outdoor water ends up returning to the lake. And so changes that allow housing to be built where it was typically or previously yard space is another strategy to help make sure that the water we're using does end up back in the Great Salt Lake. Thank you. Next slide.
We've also had questions about how this proposal kind of furthers our housing goals. Plan Salt Lake and Housing SLC both have various goals about more housing options, whether that's duplexes or triplexes, different incomes, things like that. This project is geared towards furthering those significantly by allowing people to choose what kind of house they live in, what neighborhood that is in, and how much they can afford. Next slide.
The last major city goal that we were asked to touch on is walkability. Our Walkable SLC project that the Planning Division recently completed evaluates all of the housing units in the city for proximity to amenities. That shows that most of the neighborhoods in Salt Lake City are actually fairly walkable. And when compared to the suburbs, especially, Salt Lake City neighborhoods are much more walkable. And so any effort that allows additional infill density in Salt Lake City's neighborhoods is going to be providing more options in walkable neighborhoods. This proposal also does limit has a smaller number of minimum parking spaces required per unit, which is another strategy aimed at promoting walkability. Next slide, please.
We've recently kicked off this project back in early to mid-January, and we've just started our public engagement events. We were tabled at the opening ceremonies watch party, which was a great time. Over the weekend, we were at District 1's Your City Loves You event. Thank you for having us. We had a great time. And then we have a handful of upcoming events, including our public open houses. We're kicking off next week at Highland High School. We have one in mid-March at the Sorensen Unity Center, and then at the end of March, we'll have one. This slideshow does say at the Leonardo, but after I submitted the slideshow, we went over there and took a look at the Leonardo, and it just doesn't work for the purposes, so it will actually be at the library instead. Next slide, please. Public engagement, our new website done by our graphic whiz, Brian. He crushed it. The website has been getting a lot of good feedback. You can submit comments there and things like that. We also have an email, should anybody feel like they want to email us. Next slide, please. And that's all we have for you. We're happy to take any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You talked about the no rezoning. So I have a R1 7,000, make it numbers even. It's 6,000 square feet. I can just buy right now, just split that up into 3 small lot properties and sell each one off individually. And then it's not rezoned, but that they own that 2,000 square foot property and they can build on it. I mean, of course, I would sell it so that they could actually build on it and do something, but that would be viable option, and that's how this could go. You're not rezoning it, you're just dividing it up into 3 spots, selling them individually, and then they can do what they want as far as within the requirements.
Correct. As long as they build under the small lot dwelling code.
Yeah, right. Yeah, with all those assumptions are made, the size and everything else. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to confirm that was the understanding I thought. Okay. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Carson.
I have a couple questions, but first want to double down on what you said about the website. I've received some good feedback from community members about the clarity of that website, the accessibility, the FAQs, and so thank you to everybody who was involved in putting forward that website. I found it very helpful myself too. Couple questions that I've heard from community members, and I've had a chance to talk through with you, but I'm raising here again for the public space is just that we have seen housing nationally be a place where private investors are buying up single family housing stock for all sorts of reasons. And so my question is given the potential for these small lot dwellings, more units on the same amount of land, how can we ensure that developers don't use this to their advantage and buy up, what formerly were single family homes and then redevelop that same property into multiple units, and don't actually promote the affordability and the home ownership that we'd like to see?
A couple of things to consider with that. Obviously, preserving the existing housing stock was a goal of this. And so one of the elements that's been included in the proposal is an incentive or bonus to retain existing buildings. Also key to the proposal is the limit on the gross floor area of each of the new units. As we explained before, the intent there is to promote relative affordability or attainability. Because of those limits, we feel that in some of the study that we've done, it will be less likely that developers will buy and tear down buildings just to rebuild new units because they are inherently going to be in that more affordable price range. There's less of a profit to be made. Is there anything else I'm forgetting on that?
The other thing is the enforcement of keeping out, checking who's buying homes. That requires a lot of manpower and employee and staff time. So I'm not terribly sure how we would go about that, but that would be a significant lift.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think we all recognize that as an issue, potentially, right? But the way to do that would have to force everything through some sort of deed restriction, which we would have to police at the beginning, but then also the middle and the end. They're normally 30-year agreements, so we would have to have city staff to do annual reviews that we're tracking them and looking into that too. So I don't want to say that we're going to completely reject the idea, but we just would want the council and people to be aware of what maybe some of the potential negative issues might be. So,
council members, Councilman Warden.
Yeah. I appreciate the Venn diagram with the affordable housing incentives, but I guess I kind of would like to see, I don't know if there's another circle to add to it, but the changes that we made to ADUs as well, because that seems like it's overlapping a lot with the small home piece, or the small lot dwelling piece. Overall, though, I also worry that if we might be moving a little quickly on this in addition to all of the changes that we made in the last year or so that we haven't really seen come to fruition yet. Affordable housing overlay, the RMFs, the MUs, and when we made this straw poll and when we were talking about this, it was a very different scenario because we were talking about, I remember how this came up, it was about a flag lot, and we were, I think, putting a lot of, this particular flag lot became emblematic of these kind of bigger frustrations that we had as council members at the time, but and I am appreciative of the changes this makes to flag lots. But then I think since that time, we've had a lot of other changes that in my mind have addressed a lot of the things that were coming up in the flag lot, in that particular flag lot discussion. So I would like to know I would like more time, and I would like to see kind of how these changes are shaping up. I know that some of the ADUs that I've seen that have been developed in my district seem like pretty substantial units, and I want to see if those are helping or hurting. And we put a lot of money into making ADUs more affordable as well. So that's where I'm at. I would feel comfortable going forward on the flag lots, but on the other issues, I kind of want to wait and see and give it a couple of years. That's where I'm at.
Councilwoman Petra.
So apparently we're just taking our ADU positions up because I'm going to represent the other side of the spectrum from you.
Go ahead. I anticipated that you might.
I actually love everything that we're doing here, and I think the proof is in other people's pudding, and we actually really do need this. My only thing is, while I understand the limitation on the square footage, that is necessary to make sure that we are keeping the price low, which I came up. I don't think that we need to be restricting the lot coverage to just the 50%. I think if people want to max out all of their square footage on one floor, I don't care. I think we're living in a time where, like, the old way of managing both the density and water are not going to serve us moving forward. And I'm particularly scared since we are going to get approximately an hour of winter this year. So I think the water thing is going to start leading out even more for me on decision making. So I think this is great, and I actually would like to see us become more assertive. I don't want us to go into a reckless aggression with it, but I would like us to see us be more aggressive with pushing this and with making it available, and maybe even trying to find places where we can pilot this responsibly to demonstrate how it could be used powerfully.
Personally, I'm closer to Councilmember Petra's position. In housing units, developers get to maximize a lot of their yard. Certainly there are setbacks, but and sometimes with the size of their building, they seem so small in comparison, right? I do understand the balance that we have to maintain the experience of single-family home neighborhoods and make sure that they still exist and whatnot. So I think that there is a balance there. I do see some of the changes you're making are in that direction, and there are a balanced approach. I'm excited about many of these changes here, and simplifies a lot of the process too, of the complexity. I do have some questions. Maybe you can help me understand this. The front yard setbacks. A little bit, any updates on that, and how, I remember the complexity of, especially in some of areas of my district, but it happens a lot in other parts of the city where non-conforming properties, sometimes there are bay forward or bay, and that one property in the whole block changes almost everybody else's development, and sometimes it feels irrational to me. I understand that we want to sort of fix the problem moving forward, but we might not be accomplishing maybe some of our goals of hopefully trying to minimize some of those yards, and allow people to develop in their own properties. So can you walk me through some of the changes you're making on the front yard setbacks?
Sure. One of the biggest changes we made there was removing the block face averaging. Right now, we require you to go out to all of your neighbors and measure their front yard from the front of their building to the property line. That's really time consuming for homeowners to do if they're looking to build a new house, or if they're looking to do an extension and maybe they can do a front addition instead of a rear, things like that. We've standardized it to 20 feet in the proposed R1 code, to 20 feet or equal to an abutting front yard. So if one of your neighbors is front of 20 feet, you could go down to, if they're at 15, you can match them at 15. So we've removed some of that kind of ticky-tacky language in there.
And as do have requirements. Thank you for that. That helps a lot because that sort of I was annoyed by this rule for so long. So it seems like it's going to potentially, if this goes ahead, go away. Now, but you do have some requirements on the backyard, correct? And you are simplifying some of that, and maybe reducing some of those too. And my question relates to some of the properties that may have not been conforming again in the past, and they have maybe a large front yard and a very small backyard. So now they are limited, they are stuck, right? And in this limbo where they could add a little bit of a space on the side or maybe in the back, and they're not allowed. But now they have this front yard that is very hard to make an addition. Is that something that could be potentially addressed with some of these changes?
Absolutely. As proposed, the changes to setbacks are quite minimal, and we did that just as a starting point that just based on previous conversations with the public, we know that people have strong feelings about our setbacks. And so as a starting point, we tweaked some things, but largely aimed to keep things mostly the same. But if that's a concern that you'd like to see addressed, or if that continues to come up from public comment, we can definitely continue to refine those numbers.
And there is a slight change because as of right now, it's just a straight up 25 feet. But I think now the proposal is 20% or 25 feet, whichever is less. And so if you have that smaller lot where you're disadvantaged, you don't have that length, or you maybe have a really wide lot, so your rear yard is really small, it would give them a small allowance, but we can continue to look into these things too.
Okay. I'm interested in looking at some of those. I do appreciate it. Councilman Borden?
Yeah, sorry, one more thing that I did want to raise. I understand this isn't legally speaking, isn't a rezone, but I am a little worried about just in the amount of residents that this would affect, and the fact that they aren't going to get a notice of this like they would for a rezone. And I think you quoted, like in your report, that we're talking about like 70% of the residential property in Salt Lake. So I am a little worried about how we're going to get the word out about this to give people an opportunity to come and speak. So can you talk a little bit about what efforts you're going to be doing? You mentioned them, but like maybe give a little more detail.
For sure. Just a couple minutes ago, an email went out about our community open houses to our planning listserv. I think that has, what is it, almost 6,000 recipients on there. We have social media posts scheduled to go out here soon about those as well. When we started this, we calculated how many mailers this would require, and it would cost almost $60,000. And I think we were told that's just not in our budget right now. So,
if it's important to the council, I think we could try to look into that again. And so we'd be happy to hear that feedback from the council. But we are trying to make these events known as much as possible through the city website, social media. We've also tried to involve the recognized community organizations, the local councils. And so we're trying to advertise as broadly as possible, but we would definitely look more feedback on how we can do better.
You said, though, you weren't going to go to all of the community councils, right? You're just going to go to one per district? Is that the plan?
Instead of going to each council individually, we will be holding 3 public open houses, open citywide, but largely, in locations on the west and central and on the east side.
And we do have information that we could present on those open houses that shows, yes, technically 70% of those residential lots, they're technically fit in that R1, SR, R2, but a lot of them don't even have enough space or can't meet the lot coverage, or they're literally so tight in between that you couldn't even access the rear yard. So it's not fair to say that 70% of lots could have another one. It does mean that it's applicable, but we do have some data and some information that we can share with the public to give a more realistic view of how many homes or how many lots it would be applicable to.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be sensationalist and say like 70% of you are going to have one of these in your yard in the next 5 years. I get that, but I don't know how else to communicate to the people that do know the lots out there that like, and how many, especially with like a flag lot or something, how many abutting property owners would otherwise might get notification that won't this time.
Yeah.
And it is a big change for those that where a lot does qualify. So I'm not trying to make it like, that 70% of people are going to be affected, but I think it's still, we shouldn't understate the significance.
Completely.
Potential significance.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in, when the council did there were a series of housing initiatives, including the affordable housing initiatives, and the council kind of made a judgment call that, even though this is a unique situation, maybe it doesn't require notification. The council made kind of a judgment call that it warranted citywide mailing. So to planning's point about not having necessarily budget for this otherwise, the council could decide to allocate, either allocate those funds separately from general fund or share feedback that is of particular importance. So I don't know. That's something to consider.
How would that have to be through a budget amendment?
I think you could do it that way.
Council added item?
You could do a council added item, or you could discuss it in the context of the annual budget, since is this a midway? Yeah, this isn't scheduled for action right now. Yeah. This is early enough in the process that I think, we could discuss sort of the different options for funding that.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, I will like to ensure that we balance the explanation correctly, because there's a lot of people that are going to think that this is going to pop it in every single house, and they're going to bring the pitchforks, and that has not been the experience throughout. But at the same time, balancing the feedback and trying to seek it. So I think that there is a way of doing that. But I would love to hear in the process, about your townhomes and, all of this. I would like to see how many people you attended. Maybe you can report that to us. And if you can do an extra outreach to the community councils through email to make sure that they know this presentation, that they know all of this, and any other creative ways of, that may not involved citywide mailing in the meantime, I think that will be welcome by this council. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thanks for your time. And just we are wanting to be methodical about this. We're not trying to rush this. We know it's a bold proposal, but we also know that we have significant issues that we're trying to help solve. So we definitely want to be transparent and communicate as well as we can with as many members of the city. So thanks for your time.
This is a big deal, so thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
We're moving on to item number 5. This is an ordinance for a zoning map amendment at approximately 2260, 2270, 2290 East, 1300 South. Brian Fulmer will join us at the table, who is our council policy analyst. Brooke Olsen, senior planner, and Amy Thompson, planning manager. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proposal to amend the zoning map for the properties you mentioned in District 6 from their current R1 7000, which is single-family residential, to MU3 or mixed-use 3, to construct for sale residential units consisting of townhomes and condominiums. These are proposed to be built on the subject properties and on additional MU3 property to the south, which is also owned by the applicant. The applicant is with us and would like to address the council at the appropriate time. And I'll turn it over to Brooke.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Since Brian already covered the details of the request, I would just like to reiterate that the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval with conditions. Next slide, please. To give you a quick overview of the details, if the request is approved, the applicant intends to apply for lot consolidation to combine the properties, which are outlined in red, with the property directly south, outlined in yellow, which is zoned MU3, and construct a residential development consisting of approximately 28, so that's a correction from 26, residential units. Approximately 12 of the units would be constructed on the subject properties, including the 8 townhome units and 3 to 4 condominium units. Next slide. This slide shows some images of the existing single-family homes which front 1300 South. The remainder of the block is zoned MU3. Next slide. This slide shows the context of the area. The site is surrounded by a mix of single-family residential, open space, and commercial uses, and is within close proximity to Foothill Drive and within walking distance of a variety of amenity types. Next slide. Zoning map amendments are reviewed against standards of consideration located in Chapter 21A50, and staff and the Planning Commission found the proposal complies with the standards with conditions. Next slide. To give you a quick overview of the MU3 zone, the purpose of the zone is to provide up to 3 to 4 story, moderately scaled commercial and mixed-use development adjacent to low-density residential neighborhoods. The zone allows a mix of uses and residential and commercial uses intended to provide neighborhood-serving uses and a mix of medium-density residential housing types. The standards of the zone are based on the range of building forms allowed in the zone, including a range of low and medium density residential, storefront, and mixed use. The zone is also subject to design standards to facilitate the development of small-scale structures that are compatible in scale with the surrounding development and patterns of the block. Next slide. The properties are in the East Bench Master Plan within a community node and on the fringe of the neighborhood's future land use area, where a variety of medium-density housing types and a mix of neighborhood-serving uses are appropriate. The plan recognizes the majority of the housing in East Bench is single-family and residential, and identifies a need to provide a diverse mix of housing choices for all stages of life. The proposal is consistent with the master plan, and with recommendations, the proposal is consistent with the citywide plans as well. Next slide. The proposed community benefit is intended to provide housing that aligns with the general plan by dedicating 10% of the new for-sale housing to those with incomes at 80% of the area median income. The applicant anticipates that both the market rate and affordable unit mix would consist of 2 to 3 bedroom units. And the applicant has also been coordinating with a community group that has a CIP application in for review regarding public right-of-way improvements along 1300 South, including the subject property frontages. The applicant is considering including right-of-way improvements in addition to the community benefit of providing affordable for-sale housing units, and can speak more to that. Details regarding the community benefit requirements, including the number of bedrooms the affordable unit shall have, will need to be determined prior to a decision on the amendment and will be specified in a development agreement. Next slide. The subject properties contain 3 three-bedroom dwelling units, and city code requires that each demolished unit be replaced on the property and consists of the same number of bedrooms. Additionally, the code allows the applicant to propose one option. First is a rental restriction on the replacement unit, or the applicant may propose a payment to the city housing fund in lieu of the rental restriction. So it should be noted that all units constructed on the property are ownership units. So staff would like to confirm that with the council that E1 is not applicable and the second option would apply in this case. And it should be noted the council may modify or waive these requirements. Next slide. Tenant displacement requirements are also applicable to this proposal. The code requires the owner to provide tenant relocation assistance to the displaced tenants, which includes moving expenses, application fees, deposits, monthly rental assistance, up to $7,200. The owner may also relocate the displaced tenants into another unit they own at the same rental rate in place of paying the relocation fees B through D. The applicant does have some concerns regarding the requirements and can speak more to that. It should be noted the council may also waive or modify these requirements. Next slide. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request with the conditions that the council review the components of Thriving in Place to ensure that they are all represented in the potential rezone, and that several provisions be incorporated into a development agreement for the zoning map amendment to mitigate the loss of the existing residential units, the displacement of tenants, and to secure the community benefit. Next slide. So if the council chooses to accept the conditions, there are a few items that staff will need the council to provide direction on for drafting the provisions of the development agreement to ensure the provisions are enforceable. And these details would need to be finalized prior to a decision on the proposal. And I've listed these on the slide for reference. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant's also here to speak to the request, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Dugan.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate the developer and working with the community, and you, and also the staff working with the community on this proposal. Could you touch on the? There's always been concerns about the traffic pattern through that area, and going from just 3 single-family homes with multiple tenants in them, because the 1300 South always has plenty of cars parked along 1300 South, which is also kind of stepped away from the broader street. So they're not in really the traffic flow. But could you discuss the parking requirements on and off-street parking availability also? Because I know on 2300 there's no parking on 2300 South East.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of talk to us about the parking requirements?
Yeah, so the MU3 zone generally requires 1 to 2 parking spaces per residential dwelling unit. The applicant did also submit a traffic study that indicated that it would have minimal impact overall. The parking associated with the proposal is proposed to be underground at the moment. But the Transportation Division did review and agree with the findings. So once or if the zoning map amendment is approved, they would need to further work with the Transportation Division to address access to the site as well.
Okay, and then just on the unit, so each unit would have a set number of spots for that unit. So it comes with the unit. The parking spot is sold with the unit. Is that? I would have to. I guess that's more of a developer's question than
Yeah, the developer can speak to that.
Okay.
Let's invite the developer here to the table. We're gonna give them 5 minutes for a brief presentation and maybe some questions from the council members. When you join, will you state your name for the record?
Joe Johnson.
Matt Knight, J Development.
Van Lewis, Method Studio.
Do you want your time to start for
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Maybe just a quick, brief history. This project started when we met with Councilman Dugan and sought some guidance from him before we even started down this path for this project. And I'd just love to underscore the time and effort we took in meeting with all 3 community councils, as well as multiple residents, and held meetings and forums to get feedback from the local neighbors and residents in this area, because we know this is a highly sensitive area when you're bringing more housing into a place like this. And it's been a great exercise to meet with the residents and get their feedback. And Councilman Dugan, you're right. From day one when we met, you said traffic would be a hot topic. And if I could just answer your question, then go back to reviewing the project. The project is designed to keep all of the parking requirements underneath. So we added a massive expense to the project. There's 28 units, and we're providing close to 60 parking stalls. I believe it's 57 right now. So it's more than two per unit, with additional guest stalls for guests underneath the building. So there's really no on-street parking required for any resident, and they're dedicated units that come, dedicated stalls that come with the purchase of a unit. In all of our meetings with all of the residents, the number one is their concern with traffic on 13th, and so spilling into 13th. And so we took it upon ourselves with our incredible architect to create additional ways for egress in and out of the property to alleviate that burden. And so as we've worked with our architect and designers and community residents, you know, we've come up with not just an egress on 13th, but there's one on to 2300, and there's one on Foothill Boulevard to mitigate traffic on 13th South. If I may just highlight a couple things really quick. This project really does three incredible things we feel strongly about. Number one, it provides a massive need for home ownership, for housing on the East Bench. We've met with Summit and Sotheby's, Mr. Wright, Thomas Wright, principal broker, Summit and Sotheby's, lives in the area, and their firm could not emphasize enough the need for to get people off the ladder, as he calls it. Is there's this missing middle of people that they're dedicated to living in their neighborhood and their community for a number of years, and they don't want to move to the west side. They don't want to move downtown. They don't want to move to South Jordan. And there's not places for them to relocate to where there's no maintenance required, and they can live in their zip code. They can still go to Dan's, and they can stay at Foothill and go to the University of Utah and their doctor. And so there's this missing middle, and we've got a blighted parking lot and 3 rundown homes. And so we've tried to create a beautiful community benefit. Number one, aesthetically, we feel like we've created a community benefit for this area. And many of them called it the gateway into St. Mary's. So 13 South is like a gateway. And so we've tried to create something aesthetically beautiful. When you drive up 13th, it's now going to be, oh wow, this feels good. And we feel our architect's done a great job doing that. So number one is just adding something beautiful to the community. Number two is a community benefit of affordable housing. We're offering over 10% units to the 80% AMI, as well as Brooke mentioned, we've met with 3 of the community councils. Like, they came to us and they said, we are involved in this CIP. Will you participate? And we said, absolutely. It's really important for them. They said, and I'm quoting them, Laura Gaylord, president, she just said, we don't have an identity in St. Mary's. All these other, Harvard, Yale, East Mill Creek, she listed all of them. They all have an identity, and we don't. And we want an identity, and it's the Donner Trail. And so we said, well, it comes right down 13th, and we said, well, let us help participate in that. For starters, we'll create a monument in front of the project, and so that, as well as contribute to the CIP. And so we've done everything we can to work with the residents to make this a community project for not only for them, but for the community as well, aesthetically.
Okay, time. Thank you. Council members?
I appreciate working with the community. So I guess it's more for the staff side of the house, because this is a rezone of the 3 units, and we're replacing the 3, I would say, naturally occurring affordable units with 3 for sale units at 80% AMI. And then the other units are all just market rate, 2 and 3 bedrooms across the board.
Correct.
And then the parking are below. And then the height restrictions at 35 feet or
35.
something? 35 feet, okay.
Van, are we
and I think
at
it's,
that, below that?
Yeah, we're
right at that?
Yeah.
Just talk on the microphone for the record.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
We do have, we're right near that height limit, and we would probably want to pursue the added 5 feet through design review later.
And on the, so more of the staff question. So I appreciate the design. I appreciate this as an area. It's a walkable area. You can walk across. I mean, Foothill's not a great street to walk across, but you can still walk across the dams. You still have the places on the east side. You got the bike trails nearby. You got the golf course and the trails to the bike paths up to the zoo and beyond. So I appreciate that portion of the design and the affordable housing and the parking and working with them on the parking side of the house. More on the staff side. MU3 requirements if it's not housing because it's mixed use, on how's that work? If it was to, if they were to, doesn't pencil out, now we got 3 houses that are MU3, we have a parking, they still have to fill in the displacement, so they would still have to build 3 affordable units on that spot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Even if they didn't consolidate them and they had to sell these properties, it would still have to be 3 affordable units on those lots.
Yeah, those provisions would be drafted in the development agreement, which would run with the land. So if they were to propose any changes, that would have to come back to council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, good.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
I think we are good. I appreciate your time being here. We're gonna move on to the next. Yes.
Can I just add one more thing?
If it's brief.
It's real brief. Brooke mentioned this, but that entire block where we're located it automatically got zoned to the MU3. And so we would propose it makes sense to make this whole block unanimous. There's this little sliver, as Brooke mentioned, that's the R17. And so the consistency is now that entire island it looks like an island, is now zoned all concurrent. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're moving on. We're gonna shift a little bit. We're gonna, since we're a little over time, we're going to move to item number 7 and push the break right after. I hope that's okay since we have Dee Brewer here from DTA. So the item is an informational item for Downtown Alliance planning and support for 2027 Temple Open House. So welcome. Yeah, we'll do it right now. Come on in. And then, yes, let's go. It's your time.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, council members. Hello again. Glad to be here. I want to brief you today, and I stress brief, on an opportunity in downtown Salt Lake City. It's the open house for Temple Square in 2027. I want to cover the customer and economic opportunities, parking and access, activation to capture spending, and an assessment we recently made on Main Street. I want to acknowledge the limitations of what we're doing and that there are many other partners that are involved, but I'll do my best to represent what's happening across those areas, but may have to defer to them. Next slide. So how will the open house impact daily downtown visitation? First, quick facts about what we know. The open house will run from April until October 27. The church estimates there will be 3 to 5 million visitors. The last discussions I had with the church are that they expect to operate tours 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week during that time. Tickets are free, but they must be reserved. They estimate that the tour throughput will be 3,000 guests an hour. Now, while the total number of visitors is large, we need not be overwhelmed by that number. Downtown's current infrastructure is sufficient to metabolize those 3,000 guests per hour coming from the open house. And this flow of visitors really presents a tremendous economic opportunity for downtown, for the merchants who are downtown, and frankly, for the tax revenue opportunities as well. Next slide, please. We anticipate that the 2027 open house will have a major impact on visitation, spending, and sales tax generation. An additional 18,000 to 25,000 visitors each day downtown. On average, this is a 25% increase in the daily customer volume for all of 2027. 25% increase in visitor volume downtown. This visitor volume will be spread across the day, so rather than a fire hose of visitors, say for a Jazz game, this is sort of metered out across the day, which enables our merchants really to respond to that, I think, in a meaningful way. Next slide. Recycling a slide I've used before, what you're looking at here, this is normal, context for a normal day downtown. You see the average there of about 91,000 customers a day, and that we peak up around 172,000. This is conventions, performances, sporting events. FanX is the biggest peak you see there, in case you wondered. But 140 downtown dining and social establishments regularly absorb these spikes. I think that's important to note. So there have been some who have suggested that we need to bring all this food and beverage into the area. I would view that as an intercept to merchants who have already invested in downtown Salt Lake City. Next slide, please. Again, this is just normal hourly distribution of visitors, and you can see that out-of-market visitors, the salmon color there, really carry the evenings there. Next slide. This shows you days of the week. Again, this opportunity in 2027 allows us to turn Sunday through Thursday into Friday every day, and we look forward to that. Visitors already account for 63% of the customers in the downtown economy, and we look forward to this opportunity to capture an estimated $320 million in additional spending in 2027. Next slide. Downtown parking resources are sufficient for most days of the Temple Open House. UTA track service is as rich around Temple Square as it is anywhere in the state. We think that a hotel shuttle bus route would be helpful to reduce additional traffic and parking congestion. I had understood that is underway. That's not, but we're continuing conversations to try and make that happen. I'm going to skip over those details, but you've got them in the notes. If we could go to the next slide. 2027, it is important to note that during this time, there are some pinch points. Smith Entertainment Group will be excavating 300 West and building a plaza for the entertainment district. The Delta Center will be under renovation as well, and Salt Lake County will be rebuilding the Salt Palace. And we understand that the intention is to close North Temple and West Temple for safety reasons. So those are pinch points. Those are real pinch points that we have to contend with. Next slide, please. The Alliance's goal is to support downtown merchants in seizing this customer spending opportunity, present a vibrant downtown, induce spending at downtown businesses. And we're investing in strategies to accomplish these objectives. Next slide. Our plans include producing daily outdoor performances and activations in the downtown core, preparing downtown merchants for success and attracting new merchants downtown. And to this end, we recently convened a downtown retail roundtable to engage commercial real estate experts, city departments, and property owners in developing strategies both for leasing and for programming. Visit Salt Lake and the Alliance are discussing where we can place staffed visitor information kiosks. So if we have all these new visitors flowing into town, we want to provide them real-time information about what their options are for activities, dining, and shopping. And let me just show you a few examples. Next slide. These are examples of what I mean by staffed hospitality kiosks. On the left is a mobile kiosk that our ambassador provider uses in Boston, to welcome guests and guide them to downtown merchants, bars, and restaurants. Another alternative on the right is to build a temporary structure. That's a possibility. Visit Salt Lake also has a mobile visitor trailer that we could put to work. And again, those conversations continue between us and our strategic partner, Visit Salt Lake. Next slide. This is about the activations. There are 7 potential sites for performances within a block or so of Temple Square. Our blocks team is developing a program and budget to produce daytime and evening activations. This is an example. Steppin' on Main is a free summer series that we produced the last 2 years, featuring cultural organizations, artists, and arts organizations on the front steps of the Eccles Theater. And this is a proven model that we have produced that we can expand on to draw people into the core. Next slide. This is a wildly successful mariachi festival, also supported by the blocks and produced by a partnership with the Mexican Consulate, County Arts, and Eccles Theater. Again, an excellent example of something we can expand on. Next slide. Nighttime activations like Frame by Frame that we did during the Sundance Film Institute. Next slide. This is a performance by SB Dance Curbside Theater on the Pierpont parking garage. We'll be doing that again this year and other programming on top of that garage. Next slide. I just had to put in this other pretty picture because that was really a fabulous night and a plug for you to join us this year for it. Next slide. This is one of our pop-up galleries and public art events that the Blocks produces across downtown. Next slide. As I mentioned, there are 7 potential areas for performances within blocks of Main Street. We're exploring programming possibilities and costs at these sites. But I stress cost because programming, if we're going to pay artists, if we're going to be serious about programming downtown, there are costs associated with that. Downtown Alliance recently audited current conditions on Main Street. This includes the condition of streetscapes and storefronts, and we looked at vacancy and opportunities there, and I'll be sharing more with you about that in a few minutes. Additionally, Scott Anderson has struck a creative team to develop some design treatments and visual elements that would be installed on Main Street to further draw visitors into the commercial district. And we're working closely with those groups and on those possibilities. There's not yet a full budget for funding the programming and visual elements, but we recognize that the mayor's office has proposed some previously allocated funds be directed to this opportunity, and of course we support that. And the city's investment would empower these plans to be accomplished. Next slide. Communication is going to be key. There are varied audiences, varied messages. New visitors need guidance to food, entertainment, and experiences. Regular Wasatch Front visitors need to know that they can still come downtown. We don't want to dissuade them, discourage them from visiting. Downtown merchants need briefings and coordination to support their operational plans, and our downtown workers and residents need updates and information to support their patterns and their commutes. Next slide. I want to briefly touch on the assessment that we did recently of Main Street, considering the opportunities in 2027, but also in 2034, also beyond that. Main Street has been our historic corridor for welcoming people downtown, and we took a look at this through the lens of a guest experience to make, and we asked the questions, what would make Main Street more vibrant? What would attract more customers? What would increase their dwell time there and enhance their experiences downtown? We're still processing all of the aspects of that assessment, but here are a few observations. Next slide. Our audit on Main Street revealed that there are sparks of artful urban interventions there. Next slide. There are also hardscape elements that have deteriorated and present maintenance challenges. Visual clutter, outdated signs, deteriorating walkways, light poles and banners, banner poles that are not usable and are unsightly. Next slide. We noted inconsistent design elements, detracting from a sense of place and a sense of community. Next slide, please. And yes, there are some missing teeth in our smile on Main Street. And an important question arises from this assessment. Will these current conditions be our conditions in 2027, in 2034? How shall we move forward? What will our current conditions be at that time? I want to suggest a thought exercise because we all have our conceptions of downtown. When you walk down Main Street, in your mind's eye, you can close your eyes if you want, but let's walk down Main Street from South Temple to 400 South. We will pass approximately 4,000 linear feet of first floor, ground level storefronts and offices. What would you estimate is the percentage of those linear feet that are vacant storefronts? And one way to think about this question is, what are the opportunities to make a difference and to make a change there? So on the following slides are maps of occupancy and vacancy on each of the blocks of Main Street between South Temple and 400 South. The maps do not express leasable square feet. The linear foot metric helps us understand what the opportunities are to improve the pedestrian experience. So if we could go to the next slide after that. Great. So this is South Temple to First South. And you see a lot of red there, which means a lot of occupancy. And there are a couple of spots there that are vacant. You can go to the next slide. This is the next block, First South to Second South. There are also opportunities to create vitality in public spaces along Main Street. Think Regent Street, the walkway there, Exchange Place, the entrance to Gallivan. These are public spaces where we can program and bring and again draw people in. You can go to the next slide. That's the block between Second and Third. Probably has the lightest retail presence, and there are some obvious vacancies there. And the next slide shows you what we sometimes call the bar block, and there are a couple of vacancies there. So I will answer the question I asked about percentage of linear feet. It's 16.9%. Maybe you thought it might be, most people guess higher than that, but I think it's important to understand what we can really make a difference in, right? If there is space that is, we may not like how a space is occupied. That may have limited use in certain day parts. Banks are not vibrant at night. Keys on Main, bless them for what they do, that does not enliven Main Street during the day. So again, trying to focus our attention on where we can make some investments there. That is a quick summary. I'm happy to answer any questions and look forward to working with the city departments and with the council as we go forward and make the best of these opportunities.
Council members, Councilmember Victoria Petro.
So what do you see happening next? Are you just being a great public-private partner in a triple P here, and you're just letting us know where you're going to go look for some funding and resources to help activate? Are you looking for us to work alongside you to incentivize getting those fallow places activated? What are you? I love information, but this feels imminent. So what are you viewing as next steps?
Thanks for asking. I came here at the request of the administration, who I believe is bringing you some proposals, some funding proposals to take advantage of these opportunities, and they wanted council to understand a little bit about what that opportunity was. I'll answer your question with, I do think this is a good investment, even just from a tax revenue standpoint. We do not have a specific request. We fully support the request that the administration will bring you, and I think has brought parts of that.
I think in Budget Amendment 4, if you remember, included a rescope of some of the funds from Open Streets this past year to provide for some of this. And go ahead, Jill.
I'll just say, at your March 10th CRA meeting, we will have a specific budget request on that agenda. And more information then to Scott Anderson and Struck are scheduled, I think, on both your city council and CRA meetings that night to give you, to add on to what Dee has just shared.
Do we anticipate that that will be the exclusive ask, or do we anticipate that there will be, if there's ongoing, I encourage you all to track some of the taxation bills currently going on that are going to really hamper our ability to approve things in a timely manner and get them dispersed. I anticipate that the state could really foul some plans up here. And we would need your voice up there loudly explaining how these bills could complicate things indefinitely.
Understood.
Any other questions? Certainly, I would like to know really what the funds, where they're coming from, and the rescope. I do have questions about the rescope of some of the funds for Open Streets currently, and how that came about. And, that will be a, good conversation to have. I would love to have some information about that. Yes, go ahead.
I think the other demographic information that felt like it was missing is this feels like it might be a deviation from the typical crowd that I encounter on a Friday or Saturday night on Main Street. And as I was counting places, I only counted 2 restaurants currently, not inclusive of the City Creek food court, that would allow families to eat there. And so as we're developing things, I would love more insight into demographics that we're anticipating, not just volume, and maybe how we're creating. We can create something, but if it doesn't respond to the actual needs, we will have invested in something that does not return on the investment the way we expect it to.
It's a great point. And we're meeting with the church next week and hope to understand a little bit more about those demographics so that we can meet them where they are.
I think that we're good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dee. Council members, we're going to take a little break. Let's take 15 minutes. And now we're going to be moving on to item number 8. It's an informational item for the Capitol Hill Community Plan update. We're going to have Kate Ward, Council Policy Analyst, come join us soon, right? Kate, Brooke Olson, Senior Planner, Amy Thompson, Planning Manager, and Caitlin War, Principal Planner. I might be mispronouncing your names because I do that quite often. So Kate is going to join us right now. She's coming. So it's your time, Kate.
Great, thank you. The Planning Division has been working on a Capitol Hill Community Plan update, and within that, they're at the very beginning stages of this. There's a few policy questions that we think you may want to consider as you review. That includes what large city budgetary items are anticipated to be included in the plan update. Additionally, what significant changes may arise in the upcoming plan, including street changes, zoning modifications, and any new multimodal options. And then finally, are there any specific elements in other plans that apply in this area, such as thriving in place, that the council would like to place special focus on as the Planning Division continues their work? With that, I'll turn it over to the planning team.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Lynn Ward, and you know my colleague Brooke Olson. We are co-managing the Capitol Hill Community Plan update that's currently underway. The purpose of this briefing is to inform the council of the update effort and listen to any feedback you may have at this early stage in the process. We'll also share some highlights from the existing conditions report and discuss steps in the planning update process and opportunities for the community to get involved. Next slide. The current community plan was adopted in 2001. This plan update will create a vision for the community through 2040. The intent is to develop a plan that is focused on land use, links those land use policies with other plans such as Plan Salt Lake, Housing SLC, various transportation plans, and Reimagine Nature, and also identifies key action items to implement the land use plan. The Planning Division envisions a plan that is easy to use, direct, can be implemented, includes metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of the plan, and set up to be updated on a more frequent basis instead of taking decades. Next slide. This slide highlights the role community plans play within the larger framework of the city-wide plans and goals. Community plans build on the city policies and initiatives established in our citywide general plan, Plan Salt Lake. Because each neighborhood and community within Salt Lake is unique, each community will help carry out and contribute to the citywide vision in its own unique way. Next slide. This slide outlines the general processing steps for plan updates. We are currently right in the thick of the first phase of public engagement. Next slide. We've broken down the public engagement into 3 general phases. We kicked off the first phase, which is identifying opportunities and issues, in the fall of last year. As part of the initial engagement, we published an existing conditions report that provides a comprehensive overview of the Capitol Hill community's current demographics, land use, connectivity, open space, historic and cultural assets, and infrastructure. Serving as a snapshot in time, this report helps establish a foundational understanding of the present state. Next slide. Now we'll get into some of the existing condition highlights. The existing conditions report is available online at the on the Capitol Hill Community Plan Update Project website and is also linked in the staff memo for your information. Next slide. The Capitol Hill Plan area is located north of downtown. It's generally bound by North Temple Street on the south, I-15 on the west, City Creek Canyon and open space areas on the east, and the northern boundary of the city itself. The area is approximately 7.25 square miles or 4.6 acres. Square acres. Here's the plan area in the context of other community boundaries in the city. Next slide. Capitol Hill is home to several distinct neighborhoods, such as Marblade, Ensign Downs, and Guadalupe, as well as an industrial area of the city. Next slide. This is a quick snapshot of the demographics. The Capitol Hill Plan area consists of 4 different census tracts. The map shows the boundaries and ID number of each tract. Several demographic characteristics are broken down into these tracts to show how the population differs depending on location within the plan area. In terms of overall demographics, Capitol Hill has an estimated population of 10,500, which is approximately 5% of the city's population. Over a 23-year period, Capitol Hill's population grew by 29%, while the city's grew by 12%. 82% of Capitol Hill's growth happened in the Guadalupe area alone, which is the tract on the western portion of the plan area. These changes can mostly be attributed to the rapid redevelopment around the North Temple Transit Station. A high percentage of the population over age 25 has a college degree. Median income is fairly similar to the median income of Salt Lake City as a whole, with the exception of one census tract, the dark blue color, which is generally the Ensign Downs neighborhood. There are approximately 5,779 households in Capitol Hill, which accounts for 6% of the city's households. 28% of those households are owner-occupied compared to the city average of 47%. Next slide. Capitol Hill contains some of the oldest structures in the city, with portions of the plan being part of the original Plat A of the Salt Lake City Survey. The oldest residential structures date back to 1852. This map is helpful to visualize the development periods in Capitol Hill. Over half of the residential buildings in Capitol Hill were constructed by the 1920s, reflecting a historic residential development pattern that predates the adoption of Salt Lake City's first zoning ordinance in 1927. By contrast, only 4% of non-residential buildings were built before 1920. Non-residential building stock was constructed much later, with 60% constructed between 1960 and 1980.
Next slide, please. As far as land use and zoning, Capitol Hill has the broadest range of zoning and land use types in the city. A large portion of the area is zoned open space, manufacturing, and extractive. 12% of the land is zoned residential, 3.5% is residential mixed use, and 2.5% is institutional and public lands. Next slide. In terms of housing types, the majority housing type in Capitol Hill is apartments at 65% of the total housing, occupying 17% of the residential land area. In contrast, single-family homes consist of 17% of the total housing and occupy 72.5% of the residential land area. While the remaining 18% is other housing types, including 9% condos, 5% duplexes, and 4% townhomes. Next slide. The median home price in Capitol Hill between 2023 to 2024 was slightly higher than Salt Lake City as a whole at $582,500. The number of cost-burdened households, which refers to those that spend more than 30% or more of their income on housing, was lower overall in comparison to the city as a whole, with 15% cost-burdened owners and 33% cost-burdened renters. There are a total of 691 deed-restricted housing units across 9 projects in the plan area, including 7 rental projects and 2 ownership projects. Next slide. This map shows the park's open space trails and recreation land uses, which occupy 22% of the land area. 100% of households within Capitol Hill are within a 15-minute walk of a park or trail. Some of the popular parks include Memory Grove and Ensign Peak, which is the main access point for the northern foothills. Next slide. As far as transportation is concerned, daily traffic volumes are highest along I-15, Beck Street, North Temple, 300 West, Victory Road, 600 North, State Street, and Main Street. There is a range of transit options in Capitol Hill, including bus, light rail, and the FrontRunner commuter rail North Temple Guadalupe Station. Bus routes mainly run along North Temple, 300 West near West High, and around the Capitol. Of the bus routes in the plan area, there are 2 frequent service bus routes that run every 15 minutes, 4 regular service bus routes, 3 of which run every 30 minutes on weekdays, and 1 of the routes runs every 60 minutes. Additionally, there are 3 limited service routes and 1 flex bus route. These run a specific number of trips per day on the weekdays with varying frequency. It should be noted that all of these times are based on the weekday schedules. And then UTA generally operates on a 15-minute frequency for tracks and 30 minutes for FrontRunner service. Next slide. The Capitol Hill plan area has 3 national historic districts and includes 2 local historic district areas. The Capitol Hill Local Historic District, which is shown in the solid purple area on the map, as well as the eastern portion of City Creek Local Historic District, shown in solid orange. There are 35 individually listed historic sites in the plan area boundaries, and 29 of those are local landmark sites. Next slide. So we just wanted to wrap it up with touching on the community engagement and next steps. Next slide. We're currently in the first phase of engagement to inform the public about the plan update, the survey, and identify opportunities and issues. We've held 6 in-person events at various locations throughout the community, including Jam Fest, Ensign Peak Trailhead, Lee's Marketplace, Capitol Hill Community Council, Marmalade Library, and Mountain West Cider. We've conducted 4 stakeholder interviews. In September, we published the project webpage and existing conditions report. And in November, we published the online survey, and we've received 60 responses so far. We also recently briefed the Planning Commission and the Historic Landmark Commission. Next slide. We've scheduled several events throughout the month of February at various locations throughout the community. We had an open house event at Mountain West Cider last week, and then we have additional events planned at 801 Coffee Roasters, Lee's Market at 4th West, and Handlebar. Next slide. As far as timeline and next steps, we're currently working on identifying opportunities and issues. In spring 2026, we will work to plan We'll work on the Big Ideas phase, which involves sharing the initial engagement results, getting feedback on the common themes, and drafting the initiatives. And then in summer, we'll work on the final vision phase, which includes publishing the draft plan, attending meetings and public hearings to get feedback, and working to finalize the plan. And that's what we have. That concludes our presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Wharton.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm really excited about the progress that you made, and thank you so much for all the engagement in the community and talking with the key stakeholders that you've spoken with, and for including me in the process. I really appreciate that as well. So I'm really excited about it, and but yeah, I feel like I've already had the chance to give a lot of my input, so I don't want to repeat too much of that here, but I do appreciate the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Petro.
Just since we're at the beginning, do we feel like it feels, you very clearly stated how diverse the needs in this district are, how diverse the experiences are. Are we confident that we can do justice to the Guadalupe community when their experiences align much more with the West Side planning that's going on? For instance, they're bound by the trains the same way other West Siders are. Their socioeconomic aligns much more closely with the West Side. Their identity, if you tell a person in Guadalupe that they are not West Side, I hope you are prepared for a fight. They will scrap. Do we feel confident that this boundary still reflects realities and allows a plan like this to be successful?
Yeah, so the Guadalupe neighborhood is within the boundaries of the plan, and we're currently working on scheduling some community events specifically trying to target that area. So that is definitely on our radar, something that we're considering. We've also been closely following the West-East Connection Study, which improves to increase accessibility between the west and the east side and address some of those barriers, such as the railroad crossings. That project is being taken on by the Transportation Division at the moment, so we're following that study closely as well, and we'll work to make sure that our recommendations are consistent with the findings as well from that study. And Amy may have more to add.
I was just going to say, one thing to keep in mind is the boundaries of the plans. I mean, I think the Avenues plan is a little bit of an anomaly in terms of your comment, just because there's not a lot of diverse pockets within the Avenues, but we do have several plan areas, Central City, for example, where there is it's such a big area, and there are many pockets of that community plan that have different needs than, within another pocket within that same community. So while we're not considering a boundary change with the Capitol Hill plan in terms of Guadalupe, we definitely acknowledge that, and we'll have to do some additional outreach in that area and acknowledge those specific needs in that area.
To that point, I would like to add, an unbiased and unfair, to seek unbiased and fair feedback, not only on the train issue, but on the freeway issue, and the connection between the two parts of the city. Unfortunately, we got a little stopped by having that conversation a year and a half ago. I don't remember how long it was. About the potential opening of some of those streets to connect the two sides, and some neighbors felt very strongly against it because of some of the issues we have in the city, especially on the west side. But that adds up to the disconnect between the two parts of the city, right? And I think that there are better ways to handle that, but I would love to get actual feedback from a lot more people too. That feedback was well received. I understand their concerns and I listened to it, but I would love to hear more about that too. And you said that this is about 5% of the population of the city, and I bet there is like about 30% of the emails that Chris gets, and maybe more. But this is an area that is changing and is growing. So I really appreciate this process. There was a question on the staff report that seemed interesting to me, and it related to the issues of funding. Are there any anticipated funding on the plans that they might be potentially seen? That we may have to have in context with the general budget. Understand? I do hate sometimes setting up the expectation very high and then struggling with making those things happen. That's an issue that we struggle a lot in the city sometimes, because we dream big and then we fall a little short sometimes. So any concerns on that aspect about like potential big expenditures that may be coming because of this plan, or maybe talking about it with the community because of this plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're still pretty early at this point in the process, and we're still collecting feedback from the public. During the next phase, we will analyze the feedback we've received as well as our data and begin drafting some big ideas to address the community's priorities, which will ultimately shape the draft initiatives and policies that go into the plan. One of the main goals of this plan is to create policies that are realistic and can be implemented. So one section of the plan will include implementation metrics that will consider city staff resources as well as budget needs. So at this point in the process, we have not identified any, but we'll have more to come in the next phases.
And this includes Warm Springs, correct? This area is within the Warm Springs.
That's correct.
So that's a place that I also would love to understand really what the community would like to see. Eventually, something needs to happen there. I'm hoping something amazing. And I would love to get a real sense of what that is, so we get some direction. It seems like we may be a little lost.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes the time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to item number 9, another informational item for the Wasatch Front Transit to Trail program. We're going to have Josh Stasinos from the Utah Open Lands presenting to us. Josh, it's your time. Hello.
Thank you so much for allowing me to meet with you today. And it's nice to see you again, Member Carlson. Met her recently at a community council for Ballpark, which is where we're located. I've heard you guys talking a lot the last little while about affordability and equity, water, air quality. I'm throwing in traffic on top of that. I'm here to talk to you about transit to trails, Wasatch Front, Utah Open Lands. We saved a big tract of land called Bonanza Flat just on the other side of Park City. They were worried about density, and it's kind of an unusual story in that Bonanza Flat lies in Wasatch County, but it's owned by Park City. They passed a $25 million bond to help buy it and prevent it from being developed. It was a shortfall of $13 million, which Utah Open Lands spearheaded the fundraising for the next 6 months, and there were people from Salt Lake Valley and all over the place that helped fund that $13 million. 1,500 pristine acres of hiking, biking, lovely stuff. And from July to September, all the trails are open. We do close a section of those trails for about 9 months of the year for the elk and the deer and the moose to be natural and have babies and all that fun stuff. So the Transit to Trails idea was sparked up there in Park City, and we put a pilot program together up there and started getting people up to the trailheads. If you want to go to the next slide. So I kind of talked a little bit about it. You can see from the beautiful picture, Bonanza is especially popular from Salt Lake City residents in the fall when the leaf peeping starts happening. I personally went up there to either leaf peep or bike or hike about 14 times. And we know from cell phone data, which I'll get into a little bit later, that about 100,000 residents from the Salt Lake Valley went up to Bonanza Flat last year, and 22% of those were from Salt Lake City proper. So we know people are going up there. We know when it gets hot in July, people are looking for an escape from the heat. We also know that traffic up Big Cottonwood Canyon, which is generally the direction people go, is not a fun place to go. It's a pinch point for us. And so Transit to Trails is, our Wasatch expansion is a concierge service. We would run it Saturdays and Sundays for 14 weeks from July to September. It would be a free shuttle program, and it would go up from the base of Big Cottonwood Canyon up to Bonanza Flat and the Bloods Lake Trail. So kind of a fun, free thing that makes it equitable if people don't have a car that's going to make it that far and still want to get out of the heat. And Utah Mountain Shuttle, who we're working with, has an app for reservation services so that people can book their little spot in advance. If you want to go to the next slide. So in 2019, before Bonanza Flat was saved, people were going over Guardsman and frequenting that area, and they were parking on the side of the street, and it was crazy. If you want to hit play, you're going to see how packed it is, how unsafe it is. There was a time where emergency vehicles couldn't actually make it through the canyon roads for people who needed attention because there's just people everywhere. In the summertime, obviously, they want to go hike, they want to bike, they want to get some cooler temperatures, and they were doing that in a major way. In 2020, with Park City and all the support that we had, we protected Bonanza Flat, immediately put into action, management plan, which included enforcement of parking. So if you want to go to the next video, we'll see what it looks like now. This is what changes when more people leave their car behind. And as somebody, again, who went up there many times, I drove up to Park City with my bike, parked at Park City Mountain, rode my bike over to the transit, took the Purple Line, which is now a permanent part of that was our pilot program, that's now a permanent part of their transportation. And I would go up there, and it was beautiful, and bike all day, and then come back down. Amazing experience, and amazing feedback from everybody. As you can see, it's safer, it's better. Next slide, please. So that's why we created Transit to Trails, a free concierge-style shuttle. It reduces congestion, reduces parking pressure, and that's the other thing. Imagine this. You want to go leaf peeping in September. You drive through Big Cottonwood Canyon. You don't love the traffic on a Saturday in Big Cottonwood Canyon. You get over Guardsman Pass, you get to the parking lot, and there's nowhere to park. Another reason, reduce the cars on the road, do a shuttle thing, and we get this going the same way we did in Park City. This is the slide that shows all the data. So with cell phone pings, Park City was able to get me this data, and you can see the raw numbers of where people are coming from. And Salt Lake City is the #1 user of Bonanza Flat. So we know for a fact that residents are going up there. Do you guys raise a hands? Do you guys leave the city when it's 105 degrees and really hot and we have no water? Yeah, exactly. Next slide. So our vision is that 13 weeks, Saturdays and Sundays from July 4th to September 30th, that's when all those trail systems are open and when most trails are being used there. Partnering with Utah Mountain Shuttle, there'd be 2 14-passenger vans with bike capacity. Reservations would be required so riders understand the schedule and the return times. They would happen with an app. With Mountain Shuttles, we have a tentative schedule, and as we're still in early talks with them, that it would be about a 9-hour day with shuttles bouncing back once an hour. And the estimated seasonal cost for the pilot program would be about $75,000 to do that. Utah Open Lands is committed to putting a meaningful skin in the game. We know this is proven because we did the same thing in Park City, and it became part of their permanent transportation. So we're committed to giving up to half of the 75K it's going to take to do this. The remaining funds, our vision is they would be shared across partner cities, the county, other donors, et cetera, reflecting the fact that this is a regional destination with regional users. We've already received a commitment for up to $5,000 from the town of Brighton, which is pretty cool, a tiny little town like that. They believe in this. They want to get less traffic in the canyon. We also just recently applied for a $20,000 grant from the Central Wasatch Commission. We've had success working with those guys in the past too. So we've got some considerable momentum moving forward on this, and we're pretty excited about giving this pilot program a try. Again, I know as a frequent user of going up to Park City to enjoy the beautiful trails that are up there in Bonanza Flat. I mean, it's world class. Park City was the first area to be designated a gold level rider by the International Mountain Bike Association because of the quality of the trails. And it's because the access is for all users and just a robust set of trails up there. So I know from that aspect, because that's my personal experience of using those. But again, there's picnic tables up there, so for people just wanting to go up there and peep some leaves and get some cooler air, it's a beautiful thing. I know as a starving college student, I had a car that wouldn't make it up the canyon. So again, this makes it equitable for anybody who is a Salt Lake City resident as long as they can get to the meeting place, which would be probably just the base of Big Cottonwood Canyon at the parking right there. So I am working, I've presented to other city councils. I learned the hard way that you guys do things a little bit differently, that I'm not here to ask for funding and there's a different way of doing things. I am going through the proper channels and actually have talked to the transportation director and got the ball rolling there for that too. So really I'm here to tell you about this and yeah, get some momentum going and hopefully get some support through. I mean, the dream is that a bunch of cities pitch in, the county pitches in, we get some money from Central Wasatch, we chip in 50%. We do this pilot program, it's amazing. We show data to UTA and maybe it becomes part of our transit as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for your enthusiasm. Councilmember Dugan.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've been up there biking and I keep on forgetting about it. So, because I just go to, other places in Park City, but this is awesome. So you get a free ride shuttle up and then they just, at different times of day, they take the shuttle back down.
Correct. So using the reservation-based system that this app the shuttle company has the app. So let's say I reserve at 7 a.m. I'm coming back at 3:30 in the afternoon. I know that my spot's reserved, so I can just go fiddle about. The company themselves know that they've got a rider that's coming back. They're going to wait 10 minutes or so to make sure that I'm coming back, but the hope is that if a rider says, hey, I'm going to go down a different way, they communicate with the shuttle company to let them know, so that opens up another spot for somebody.
Because I'm going to ride home.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just, and there's a goal to increase it to, a longer weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday?
It's Saturday, Sunday to start with right now. Those are the kind of the pinch points. I know as somebody who uses the canyon for climbing, biking, hiking, all those things, they're busy days, especially the beautiful days. Like I don't want to be another car that's going up over into the canyon. But the reality is when it's 105 degrees down here and I want to go recreate, I'm going to probably do that. Awesome. And another thing that I didn't include in this, but I oftentimes talk about when it comes to this is there is data out in the world that says 2 hours in nature is not just good for us physically because we're moving out in nature, but it's good for our mental health as well. Mm-hmm. And so think of it as a happy constituency is a better constituency. They're better able to deal with these other harsh problems that you're hearing about all day long so that they can get their break in nature.
Councilmember Vitro.
Thank you for this. I would love to know if you have any plans, or maybe work with you if you don't, on making sure you target our West Side neighbors. So often, I know in our schools, there's a huge initiative to make sure our young kids from our Title I schools get up there. My daughter's school just went to a snow camp up in Big Cottonwood Canyon at Brighton. But so often, our neighbors are left out by virtue of just not realizing that nature is for them or that
Sure.
it's accessible to them. So I would love to collaborate on ways to make sure that this isn't just for those who are likely to go, but maybe we even improve and increase the likelihood that people who couldn't or wouldn't have gone before take advantage of this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're doing the hard part of getting over to the canyon and kind of expecting people to get to the meeting point. But I think it's a valid concern to think about making it equitable for people everywhere. I mean, if I'm in Cottonwood Heights, it's just, wow, I just get to save on the pinch point here. If I'm way on the west side, I've still got a considerable trip to make. I think it's an interesting thing that I can bring back and chat with our team about. I, at one point, lived on 6 North, 6 West, in between the freeway and the railroad tracks, and I couldn't get a pizza delivered to that area, so I'm very familiar with the pinch points based on where you're at.
Councilwoman Carlson.
Just want to double down on what you said about the benefits of 2 hours in nature and what it can do for our whole well-being, and just really emphasize that that's so important for decision making, so important for all sorts of things. So thank you for that. Want to really follow up on Councilmember Petro's comment about communication, and I hope that with this plan we're able to communicate it to our residents, to get the plan out to them, to encourage them to take advantage of this. And it's a program that seems really exciting to me, so thank you.
Yeah, and I think once we get to the point where we know we've got the funding set aside and we've made the schedule for this, I think we then communicate with you and your newsletter and whatever channels you want to use to get this out to residents. We'll obviously use our capacity to do that. The shuttle service will do theirs. The town of Brighton's going to do theirs, perhaps Sandy and other places who are participating as well.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Last thing I'll say, which I just feel like I needed to say this at the end of this meeting after all the talk that we've had. The last thing I said at our meeting for the neighborhood, the community council that we were doing for Ballpark, somebody asked me the question about the ballpark, and I know this doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, but when you're thinking about city and you're thinking about residents, the thing that we have always found as an organization, I mean, our name is Utah Open Lands, is if you start with some green space, if you start with a park, if you start with a little bit of nature, that is the thing that brings community together. And again, that 2-hour benefit a week of finding that, giving them that mental health capacity and that physical thing, we have a better constituency in our hands, and we're all a little bit happier. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to item number 10 now as another informational item. This is the Council Communications Performance Report. We're going to welcome Whitney Gonzalez Fernandez, Council Director of Public Relations. And we're also inviting the table Amber Pearson, Council Director of Communications and Systems. And it is your time now.
Hi, Council. Thank you for having us and giving us the time to talk to you a little bit about communications. I know you've had a lot of information to review today, so we'll try to breeze through the high-level findings from our July to December 2025 communications performance. So we can go to the next slide, please. So this biannual communications report is one of the items that came out of our communications plan that we presented last spring. So it's kind of an accountability measure to just kind of update you all on how we're doing on communications as a whole. I know sometimes we also do project-specific or event-specific reports as well. So basically the purpose of the report is to track progress toward our 3 core goals in the communications plan, which at a high level are awareness, engagement, and accessibility and equity. Next slide, please. So in a little bit of more detail here, awareness means to us increased public awareness and understanding of the council's role. Engagement is strengthening that community engagement and participation in local government, and accessibility and equity is ensuring transparent, timely, and accessible communications. Next slide, please. So we'll kind of filter the results through those top 3 goals. So up first is awareness. We've seen, in terms of website traffic, a lot more visibility. That means more people are seeing council content and using the website as a primary hub of information. So these 2 charts are just a quick glance at the same period, July to December, 2025 and 2024. So you can see quite a bit of growth there. On average, our monthly visits to the website are up 28%. Monthly page views are up 27%, and average bounce rate is also up 1%. So a couple of things for bounce rate, that just means when someone leaves the website after seeing one page. And we think that's because the website is a way that we connect folks to other platforms like the agenda platform, so YouTube to watch a council meeting. So yes, and then for some of the top most high traffic pages are the agendas and meeting information page, the find your council member page, contact page, and then for this period last year, it was the 2025 municipal election page, because that was happening. And then in terms of the bounce rate, we're continuing to explore ways that we can encourage people to keep exploring further. So maybe highlighting those top pages, incorporating some go back buttons or related content links as well. Next slide, please. A little bit more about awareness in terms of social media and email. Our audiences have grown there as well. You can see that Instagram is our fastest growing social media platform. So a lot of our effort is going there right now. And then over the chart on the right is the % growth for each district's email list. So this shows also that more residents are receiving that council information than ever before, and we're continuing to adjust our strategy based on what we see. Next slide, please.
Truth Social.
Onto engagement. So engagement is the interaction that we see from our residents. And engagement increases when content is timely and relevant to them. So our district email newsletter rates are continually beyond industry benchmarks. I would guesstimate that an industry average open rate for an email is in the 30s. And most of ours are very close to 50s or in the mid 50%. So that means people are interested in the information that we're sending to them. And they're looking for our emails when they come to their inbox. Same thing we found for the meeting recaps. So I think that was mid-September last year, we decided to try changing the subject line, and that was a no-go. So we won't be changing the subject line because people are looking for that. So these are the types of things that we're keeping an eye on as we continue engaging with the public. Next slide, please. So a little bit more on engagement. So, sorry. We are publishing less on social media, believe it or not. But that has also allowed us to be more strategic about the type of content that we're putting out. So we're really trying to lean into a quality over quantity approach on social media. For example, on Instagram, we posted 23% less, but we still saw an 8% increase over the previous year. So again, leaning into that intentionality and then making sure that our posts kind of tie into those top 3 goals that we discussed at the beginning. And then these are just some of the most top performing videos, most engaged videos. Again, video first is something we are marrying to that quality over quantity approach, as you all know, by all the times we're asking you to record videos for us. Next slide, please. Another thing that we've found has been helpful in terms of engagement and targeting specific residents are paid advertisements. So we've been experimenting with social media advertisements, and they've proven to be pretty valuable in terms of generating buzz around events, getting people to take surveys, and just connecting with people who aren't already following us. And compared to traditional advertising and mailers, it's way, way, way cheaper. Most of the social media campaigns we've run have been at about $1 per result. So that's a pretty good deal. And then we've also found value in advertising with like hyper local podcasts, CityCast Salt Lake. And then we've also, we're experimenting and exploring further YouTube ads, including radio as well. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. And then lastly, accessibility and equity. We are continuing to, this is probably our biggest opportunity, is just continuing to develop any efforts that reduce barriers to connect, and then also just increase awareness of the resources that we already have, like our Spanish language email newsletters, and our ability to use SMS text messaging. So so yeah, I also want to highlight that in terms of accessibility and equity, we see that as meaning making local government and policy content accessible and easy to understand for the public. For SMS text message, this is more easier for folks who are less digitally connected. A big barrier we've seen there is that opt-ins are required. So people have to opt in before they can receive our text messages. So we are looking at ways to kind of encourage people to opt in and giving them an kind of a hint about like what kind of content they could expect from us, how many text messages they can expect from us. So more to come there. Let's see. And then community events have also been a great place for people to connect and sign up for email lists and other communications. So we use some of our print materials that you see shown here to encourage people to connect with us. And then I want to highlight the little cartoon that one of our designers made. So something as simple as like how an idea becomes a law. So next slide, please. Some of our strategic focuses moving forward. So these are, you've probably heard in ongoing conversations with us already, but annual communications planning by district is something that we're hoping to explore with each council member. And that planning kind of helps us balance capacity with other outreach things that we have going on throughout the year, like budget and CIP. And any other major proposals that we are engaging the public on. Also prioritizing that high-value multi-use content. So if a video worked great on Instagram, it's probably going to do well on email, it's probably going to do well on the website. So looking at ways that we can kind of spread the love there. Continuing to look at ways that we can improve how people use our website, whether that's improving navigation or just experimenting with the type of information that we list there. Continuing the video first strategy, really want to prioritize that list building for email and SMS text, and then leverage paid campaigns where we think it's relevant and where it's proven successful. And that is all I have. We'll take any questions or any thoughts as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Carlson.
I just want to take a moment to give both Whitney and Amber a shout out and a huge shout out to the comms team. I think coming into the city council role, I've just been so impressed by the quality, the adaptability, the innovation of the team. And so just want to say thank you for your work, and it helps support me to do my work around community engagement and connecting with my neighbors. I think one thing I just want to throw out there, and you maybe have heard me talk about this before, but taking a cue from the paper of record, i.e. New York Times, which is now a gaming app, how could we think about incorporating more gamification into the website, even something as simple as a quick, pop quiz of 1, 2, 3 questions that then drives people to go to other parts of the website and engage more deeply with the thoughtful content you all are putting forward.
Yeah,
So-
and we did talk about this briefly, and we've already outlined a couple of options in terms of that, making it a conversation.
Yes.
We've looked at some crossword options. We talked about like a photo kind of campaign. And one more thing was even crowdsourcing content as well.
I would like to take a completely different turn. No, just kidding. You guys are killing it. We have, as a council, elevated the communication in the last few years by tenfold. I mean, it's incredible the amount of work and how you guys have been not only sharing what we are doing, which many people don't know how many things we do every day, but also, seeking feedback, which is very important for the work that we do, trying to get, direction and correction from our neighbors about the approach that we're taking about the issues. And so I really appreciate it. I do have a question, and it relates to the website. And the website is the template is a little, maybe we could say outdated, or maybe unflexible, or some may say just ugly, but it wasn't me. Everybody says it, but it wasn't me. No,
I think they have a drinking game about that.
Would it be possible for potentially the council have a different template for our website that helps us while not completely disconnecting from the rest of the city? And I'm not trying to because overhauling the city website is a much bigger task, and I don't want to even mention that to the administration because it seems like it very hard to do, and I'm sure that they wish also they have improved website, but we have different needs since we are 7 elected officials from different districts, and we also have our own style sometimes and our own crazy ideas. I've been a source of some of those in the past. So I would love your feedback about, is that even a possibility? And I don't want to completely disconnect from what the city does as a whole because it's important, but I wonder if there is a path there for us to achieve a better platform on that side.
I think we have a sandbox that we can play in. So the header, the footer, that's all built into the WordPress template as part of the SLC Gov site. We could probably talk to IMS about giving us a little bit more freedom with embedding apps, things like that. They have a third party that they work with. So we would have to just have conversations with them to see what we could possibly do. But we could totally look into that.
And in my experience with, some of those platforms, with enough time and enough funding, they can develop something that may be a little different and unique for us. It might accomplish some of our needs. But I know that there is a lot of people the numbers that you share about how many people are visiting some of these websites is impressive. We're talking about thousands of people coming to look for information in our site. Yeah. I cannot even imagine how many are going to their site either. But I was just something to explore.
And we can definitely discuss further some of the goals that you have and some of the adjustments that something like that would accomplish for us to kind of determine our next steps.
Thank you. Yeah. Council members, any more thoughts or questions? Councilmember Warden.
Just want to thank you again for the hard work. The only thing that I would suggest is, and it's a suggestion that I've already given to Jen and them, to the leadership team, is I would love to have some content too about great outcomes that we're doing, and it can be the city as a whole. It doesn't just need to be the council, but there were some great examples in the mayor's State of the City speech that we also helped create those outcomes, and so I think we should be pushing out that feedback because there's so much that people don't realize that we're doing already that aligns with what they would like us to be doing, and I want to show them that we're listening. So
I love that, and collaborating with the different departments and the administration has been a really big help, and I feel like that would be another great actionable add-on.
And I think building off Shape SLC, because we can connect those dots, so I think that would be a benefit to us.
I love that feedback, Chris, so thank you. Jen?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, sorry, just observing how the council, to your point, how the council communications function has evolved over the years. I'm just so grateful for the strategic thinking that both of these brilliant ladies have applied to how the council communicates to constituents, because it's not always the same as how the city communicates. And the creativity I've seen from this team is just incredible. But partnered with the creativity is also this very like systematic look at how we can make sure that the creativity that they're showing is proving itself. And so I just really appreciate that unique skill set you guys have. So I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you all for your support. It really makes a difference and allows us to do our best work.
Yeah.
I know this, that if you can work with us, you can work with anybody. So, I mean, your career is secure. So thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And moving on to item number 11, this is the board appointment for the Planning Commission. And Anna Sullivan is here. Yes, please come in. And you want to tell us a little bit about you and why do you want to join the Planning Commission?
Yes, hi, thank you so much for having me, Council. My name is Anna Sullivan. First, I'm a lifelong resident of Salt Lake City. I grew up in the Ballpark neighborhood. I attended West High School. I graduated from the University of Utah. And I have always held a deep commitment to my community, which has been illustrated through involvement with organizations like Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Circle of Salt Lake. Professionally speaking, I have spent the last 5 years building my career at Utah Housing Corporation, where I work as the Housing Credit Allocation Manager in the multifamily department. So a lot of what my job entails includes reviewing things, reviewing development projects, applications for low-income housing tax credits, but reviewing things like zoning, conditional use permits, community revitalization plans, and just general project plans. My job also includes updating the program rules each year, the qualified allocation plan. So, you know, in conjunction with state and local goals, making sure that we're exhibiting that vision and incentivizing projects for building things the way that the state needs or the community needs. And then lastly, I was just very interested in this commission personally as pretty much a lifelong West Sider. As I was looking into it, I noticed that the commission did not have anyone from District 1 or 2 on it currently. I live in Rose Park. I'm a proud West Sider, so I'm hopeful that I can be a voice of representation for the West Side.
Council members? Councilmember Butro?
Thank you for being willing to represent our home. I'm your neighbor. I live a few blocks down from you. Is Mike Christensen not on the Planning Commission anymore? We do have a very strong District 1 voice, and I'm hoping that he turned off. All right. Well, thank you for taking his spot, but I'd be happy to connect you with him if you want to hear about some of the things he did. I know he ushered us through some really difficult things, but welcome to the madness. We have the only agricultural land in the city, and we are on the forefront, so thank you for being willing to step into the fray. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for representing the West Side, and you know, and maybe help us find members, you know, for the empty seats. We had a few Planning Commission members moving, you know, quite fast, unfortunately, for multiple reasons. But you know, we're excited to have you join in, and maybe you can help us find some more people from our community to represent our views. So. Thank you for joining us. The process goes this way. We're gonna have you on the consent agenda for and the formal meeting later at 7. You don't have to attend to be selected. The administration will reach out to you with the next steps after that. So today it becomes official.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Thank you. Reports from the chair and vice chair? No? Are you sure? Okay, I am also sure. There is a report from the executive director.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just two brief ones. The first is the Salt Lake City Chamber Board of Governors includes an ex officio position, which means like non-voting position on the chamber. In years past, the council chair has typically attended. However, this year, the chair and vice chair have offered to any of the council members who are interested in filling that role if there's an interest. The schedule for 2026 is below, so just let staff know if you're interested in attending those meetings. There's not a requirement, although sometimes it's helpful to just maintain relationships with the chamber.
So if any of you want to attend, please, let staff know. Yeah.
The next item is just an update on kind of confirming our template for our council staff reports. So if you turn over, this is just to orient, and I'm already seeing something that's missing. Sorry about that. We're dialing this in so that we have kind of one template, no matter which report we're talking about, so that council members and the public know where to look in the staff report for which things. Our goal is always to have the most brief and concise information in the first page, along with what the goal of the briefing is, so that you guys know sort of why we're sitting here today. Is it informational? Is it preparing for a public hearing? We will have usually a box in the right corner in the to and from line that lists key dates. So if there's a set date, or if there's a public hearing, or if there's an anticipated action date, that's where those will be. Then policy questions will be next, because that's usually the next most important place for council members to look. And this, we've gone back and forth as analysts a lot of times. Is it more important to have the background information to inform the policy questions, or vice versa? So open to feedback on that. But our thinking is that, sometimes, especially if you guys are trying to skim for quick information, we'll want that for you first. But the background information will be there for the public record, so that the public is sure to know sort of where those policy questions are coming from.
Can I make a request?
Absolutely.
I don't know if this would benefit everybody else, but I would love more information in like bullet point format, because a lot of times I'll read something and I won't know that I need to refer back to it. And then when I go back to try to find it and it's like buried in a paragraph, it's a lot harder. But it's easier for me to organize things if they're in bullet points, because I read these in a very nonlinear way.
Okay.
So
that's helpful to know.
But I don't want you to write it just for me, but I think it's helpful to like separate out bullet points.
Okay. Would do others feel similarly? Should we just try that out for a little while?
I think maybe, I wonder if, and we started on this process because Emily OCD about a few things, and that one is one that I like consistency, and we're all on the same page is important to me. I like that. I wonder if, would you consider highlighting keywords?
Yeah, that'd be great too.
Okay.
Because I think that the paragraph version gives us, a narrative sometimes that is important.
Yeah, you don't have to bullet point everything, but yeah.
Well, I wonder if council admin could merge that idea. Maybe some of them, maybe it could be in a narrative form, and then it could also be a bullet form, or it could be highlighted of keywords in the text that separate the sections in some way. So he can, in his non-linear way, which is it's not much different than mine. So I think it may be useful.
Okay, we'll try a few. Maybe we'll try a new iteration for next time, and then just let us know how it's feeling and what works and what doesn't, and we'll keep adjusting. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we're going through a similar process to make sure our motion sheet templates are kind of all consistent, so that you guys know what to look for in the formal meetings. And then we've heard feedback that it's helpful for council members when you have been requested to take a straw poll in a work session to have those kind of similarly situated to like a motion sheet. And have it be kind of printed out separately, especially if it's a complicated issue that we're working through several straw polls. Thankfully, we don't have too many of those, knock on wood, but we're working on a template for that as well. Yeah.
Councilwoman Young just texted me. She would like if in the reports, if there can be links to other commission or committee hearings that it's already gone through. She's saying like if it's gone through Planning Commission, if there could be a hyperlink to the recording of it.
We have had, let's see, like who's not in the room? We've had some, yes, we have asked about that actually for several years. Our working with PrimeGov, which is where most of our staff reports live, has presented a little bit of challenge on that front, but I think it's worth kind of continuing to request that because it seems like it should be possible.
I think for the sake of context, I think that will make our lives so much easier so we don't have to dig through another website.
Yeah.
We can easily find
That's
it.
great.
The feedback is useful, so if you have any other thoughts, I think this is a really good time to do it. Sorry for the OCD, but I think it will make us all better if we have this information all clear.
Thank you.
No, thank you. We don't have anything else on the agenda, so we are done with this meeting. So thank you, everyone.